Start new play Nickelback music.
We all know you use an iPhone.
So did you see, I don't know if you've been paying attention to the Obsidian news. Apparently Josh Sawyer has been trying to do another Fallout game for the past 4 or 5 years. And he said, quote unquote, hires me prevented it, but now certain other Titans allowed me to do it. And then someone leaked out that Bethesda straight up said no to Obsidian doing another Fallout game. Yeah.
I mean, 4 years ago, I might have been excited to see it, but
Well, most of them are gone. I have faith because Josh Sawyer's in charge. He wasn't in charge of Outer Worlds or Avowed. He was in the Pillars of Eternity realm. And Pillars of Eternity had a great story. So
I heard nothing but good things about Pillars of Eternity.
yeah. And apparently he was working on a supposed Shadowrun game, which would have been fucking awesome. But also,
Got into Shadowrun.
like Shadowrun a CRPG RPG or just like something set in the Shadowrun universe.
It was going to be like Fallout, because originally the pitch for it was like he wanted to do another Fallout New Vegas-esque game and got rejected, so he was working on something similar to it, and it was, now this is leaked, it's not confirmed, that it was going to be in the Shadowrun verse. So imagine a Fallout game, but in the Shadowrun universe.
I mean, I would have been interested in that.
Yeah, I know, too. I was like, oh, that's cool. But yeah, with Josh Sawyer behind it and a couple of the others coming back for it, I'm not going to say I have 100% faith in it. And I was there for New Vegas launch. It's not like it was a beautiful game on release that everyone loved. It took a minute for it to develop and everyone appreciate it.
Yes.
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 That's what they're counting on.
To be honest.
Yes, they are.
Yes.
The people that came up with that plan aren't.
To be honest, they need to start some.
Again, that's exactly what they want to happen, though. And the creators aren't dumb. They know how to play dumb people. Later.
I have a good one.
I mean,
touches the bacon. Hello, everyone. How's it going? I will probably have to adjust my camera here real quick. I hope everyone's doing good today. And sure enough, I do. Quick question for y'all. Can you guys hear the fan that I currently have pointed at me? There we go. I feel like it's the autofocus that's on. Focus grayed out. That's so weird. Okay. I have no idea to tell if it's gonna like have focusing issues, because sometimes it has. Like I was noticing that in some of the clips. So for those of you guys that have been paying attention to the YouTube side of things, I did a community post over there kind of updating everyone on YouTube as to like what's going on, where I've been, all that stuff, because I haven't really posted on the main account in a hot second. And there were a couple of reasons for that. Primarily, again, I didn't have an editor for a long period in time, and now I'm trying someone out, and he seems to be working well so far. We are posting a couple of YouTube shorts so far. Today was the first FGO one, and last I checked, it was doing well. I'd have to look at it again, but yeah, just again, if you guys want to, go ahead and give me that support. You guys know I would appreciate it. Mr. Creamy, thank you for the sub. Let me get this open because apparently I didn't have my stuff on. I guess Andre subscribed to me yesterday, which again I have to apologize. This week we basically didn't get to stream. Like I think I streamed with you guys Saturday, and then I haven't been able to stream since then until today, which is Thursday. So we've gone a long time without me seeing you, and it feels kind of wild in that regard. I have to apologize for that. Part of the reason for that is Sunday, Kiki's mother came over and stayed with us, and she stayed a lot longer than I was expecting her to. I remember when we originally talked about it, she was only going to stay till Tuesday, and somehow that became Thursday. That had to do with the fact that the rest of her family was basically going to Orlando for a tournament, which was a thing, and so they were kind of passing through on the way, and dropped her off with us, and she was our first true guest since we've kind of moved Kiki in and redone parts of the house. So it was nice to have someone stay with us, but definitely I would have preferred a little bit of a shorter stay, at least for my purposes. I definitely I don't mind guests, I don't mind entertaining and stuff like that, but I definitely like to have my time to like stream with you guys. And because specifically it's like when it's your girlfriend's mother and it's the first time she's staying over with you, it's like I didn't really want to stream and be a bad host during that time. So it was one of those deals of I kind of needed to like be on my best behavior. IA, thank you for the resub. Earn, thank you for the resub. Hope you guys are doing well. Any predictions for the anniversary so far on JP? JP, I already know there's some announcements, but no, I mean, everyone keeps asking me for predictions. I'll be honest with you guys. I know that's like the big thing for a lot of content creators to do, but like, I truly don't feel like I have much in the way to predict because it's kind of difficult to predict things at this point. JP is a little bit up in the air. There's definitely some hints towards the future, but it's so tough to tell like what's going to happen now. So maybe we see somebody else from Strange Fake. But truth be told, like we could see anything, truly anything in the Fate verse come out this anniversary in this summer. So it's one of those deals where it's almost impossible to accurately predict anymore. Oh, you gotta wait 2 years for the Arthur buff? Yes, we did get the Arthur buff. We're gonna try to go over some of that today. But the first things first, and that's kind of on my agenda to do. Like, I really want to sit down and analyze stuff with you guys. So if I don't get that done today, we can maybe do it tomorrow. But the big thing for me is going to be getting all of these missions that I can done. So I need to defeat a Medusa, defeat a Red Saber. So it looks like I just have a bunch of this crap. And I guess I've kind of, without really trying, completed the other ones. A Pen Skill Edition commemorative, complete 50 quests, so those will just complete on their own. Medusa, let's see. So she's in a free quest. and training grounds. Free quests are probably going to be our way to go. Was I happy with the new buff? Yes. I've long held the stance that Arthur was, at first, like, I thought he was somebody that just had an awful kit and was not going to play out well over time, but they've done so many buffs to him over the years that, you know, over time we began to look at, it's like, what was the big thing that Arthur needed? And it was an MP interlude. He has always needed an MP interlude. I do not know why they avoided giving it to him for so long. Truthfully, the event doesn't even strongly deal with him as far as I can tell. So I kind of just look at that as like, was this just they wanted to fit him in, but couldn't really think of how to do it. And then they finally did. And so that's where we are. I couldn't tell you. Like, it's just one of those deals where I think they didn't have time to do it in the first two parts. It never crossed their mind when they could have kind of done it easily. And then I guess they never were able to fit it in when obviously they were a little bit more busy. So I think it's just one of those deals where they just never got around to it. And it's sad, it's unfortunate, but hey, here we are, and at least we get it finally. And Arthur is a lot better for it. We'll talk about that. But yes, I am happy with it. It's one of those deals where you have to like temper your happiness by saying like, yes, this is good, but holy shit, you took so long to do it. I kind of hope they made another Altera with them. They kind of did. And it's just something that we've seen so much over the years of like, when you try to avoid making a character stronger, giving them the buff that they actually need, and you buff everything other than that, and then you finally get around to giving them the thing that they need, the character is naturally going to be stupidly strong. Why? Because that's just the way they are. Cat, did we only get the refund coins from Grail casting and not the extra for summoning? What do you mean by the extra for summoning? Because there is no extra amount for summoning. There was additional coins given out for bonding. Like, I'm sitting here trying to think of what it is that you might be meaning from that. Is Seal a better boss killer over Kenshin? They're slightly different. I would argue yes, potentially, though. And the reason for that is just Seal is very hard to kill. So it's one of those deals of like, yes, we can argue that Kenshin's hard to kill, but Seal is actually difficult for an enemy boss to bring down. I have taken Seal into numerous like 100+ nodes and not had an issue. So that's kind of what I mean when I say that. Sorry, hold on. More quests. So Salter and Umu. Preparation for the Dojin one. Yeah, I guess we'll do Novice. If I have MP3 Summer Castoria, do I need Seal? I think need is always a strong word. I can safely say this. If I look at roles as a zero-sum game, and I don't often encourage you guys to do that, but if I look at roles as a zero-sum game and say that if I roll here, I don't get to roll elsewhere, I cannot fathom someone having rolled Seal regretting not rolling elsewhere. And the reason that I say that is Seal has been that useful over time. I truly have not had any issues using her, or any time that I was like, man, she's just not working here. So to me, I've had numerous times instead that they're the reverse, where it's like Seal was either the only solution, the best solution, or saved my bacon as somebody that I had like in my back line. And that's something that I think is just very strong about her. So do you have to have her? No. Will you be happy you have her? Absolutely. And this is why I said, like, to me, if there's one unit you roll this year, Seal is the unit that I would go for. Now, that's not necessarily the answer everyone wants to hear, but that is truly how I feel about it. Like, for instance, if I were going to miss out on Space Airish and get Seal, I would be okay with that. If I were going to miss out on Seal and get Space Airish, I'm not I'm not somebody that's like a huge Ren Face fan. You guys know I'm a Saber fan instead. But even just taking like any sort of bias out of the equation here, I just look at the gameplay of the two units. I would much rather have Seal. And that sounds crazy, but it is the truth. But I think like something like that's going to be hard to argue if you are a actual like fan of Space Airish, right? So it's like, to all the people that rolled Space Airish, I'm not going to say like, oh, you did it wrong, like you blew your wad, now you're not going to get anything. Like, the thing to keep in mind too, guys, is that there will be numerous other banners coming up next year for both Space Airish and Seal. So the choice is yours. Okay? Like, it's totally up to you for how you want to go about this. But to me, I look at it as that's where I would kind of like take solace, is in the fact that I know there will be other opportunities to still get the thing that I want. Now, the thing that I can say is Seal, to me, pretty much just immediately proves herself worthy, both in that event and subsequently in events afterwards. If you skip rolling for her there, it's not like there's not going to be good times to use her still. There still are, and I still actively use her to this day on JP. But there's definitely a idea of like, well, you're getting out of the hype cycle, and then you won't necessarily hear as many people talk about her. Whether or not that's a big problem or anything, I don't know. But this is something that I'm trying to make you guys aware of, is that inevitably we are currently in the Space Airish hype cycle. This is the one where like everyone's going to be pushing for you to get Space Airish, and everyone's going to be flaunting the fact that they got her. So the pressure will be highest to roll her. Once you get outside of that, it's not necessarily a big deal, right? So ultimately, it really just depends. You do what you want, but I think like this is the sort of thing that I always struggle to answer for you guys, because I think people want a concrete answer, and it's so difficult to answer concretely based purely off the fact that like I know you guys have different wants and needs. I know you guys have different budgets when it comes to the game. So it's something where I struggle to actually just tell you a concrete answer, because I'm trying to approach it from as many angles as possible just to help you guys make that decision. Because ultimately, that's really all I want, is to help you guys make your decision, not to make your decision for you. Jerry, thank you for the follow. You've come to the right place. Addo, thank you for the resub. Hacks, thank you for the resub as well. I did get some free time to stream. Girlfriend is off working out. She had to go into the office today. And let's see, I need to alter that. And I got some time to actually be able to like just relax. I definitely need to get back to working out a little bit more myself, though. Feels 1.5 times the sabers more useful than one might assume at first. Yeah, I mean, I would argue you don't need something like that, but it is definitely something that does pay off. What am I doing? I don't know. Die, Jills. Hello, Field. Obviously, the most important waifu was Mysterious Space Ereshkigal Omega. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I'm not sitting here trying to knock Space Ereshkigal. Space Ereshkigal is a very strong unit. There is just naturally some issues involving like her performance due to the nature of her kit. It doesn't make her a bad unit. I can only tell you from a purely objective standpoint that if I were to try and somehow like rank the desirability of units based purely off of performance, Seal would be at the top of the list, at least for this year, right? And to be honest, Seal would be towards the top of the list for any year. That should give you guys at least an idea of how good that I believe Seal is and why I think you all should at least consider rolling. Whether or not you do roll, that's up to you. I don't believe that you'll be screwed if you don't have Seal. But I do believe that certain fights will be a little harder. I do believe that Seal is a very easy solution to some things. If you're someone that's looking a little bit more for a challenge, a paper item as a battle drop. Okay, I'm so confused. When it says paper item, is it just meaning pages? I feel like it's just meaning pages. If you can have both, would you prefer to have a high MP level of Seal or Space Airish? I feel like I'm going to get myself in trouble because there's going to be someone that's going to get triggered by me saying this. But truthfully, I feel like Space Airish is somebody that you want that second copy for. Okay? That being said, the reason I feel that way is, again, when you start approaching things as somewhat of a more neutral looper, and I'm not saying that you'll necessarily have those opportunities with Space Airish. I'm just saying I look at this as her speciality is extra classes, and you will likely not have a node full of extra classes. I know there was that weird like shtick that was going around for a while when we started getting to Ordeal Call, where everyone's like, it's all extra classes, and it really fucking isn't. Ordeal Call 2 is actually the worst for that. So you guys just went through what we would consider to be the peak of you only see extra classes. And even then, it wasn't you only see extra classes. So to me, it's not a big deal. 30% drop rate unless you do the Ordeal Call node. Yeah, that's why I came back. I just wanted to see if I actually had the storm pods. OC2 is just an oddball, right? But I feel like OC2 warped people a little bit with their like concepts and stuff, and the reality here is it was not a big deal, and that was a one-off. So I think a lot of people started expecting that like that was somehow going to be the way that everything was, and it wasn't. Because you guys remember, there was a lot of shade thrown Draco's way, that like Draco was somehow bad. And it's fucking hilarious because I defended Draco to the death back then when people were saying that shit. And I got proven right by it because Draco has been really fucking good, especially when you start looking at things like the Olga fights. So it's one of those deals of like, I never really understood why people tried to throw that shade her way. And I think a lot of it was originated in some like misguided sense of, this is just the way that like the game is going to be from now on. Like now we're in Ordeal Call, the game's going to have almost all like extra classes in it. It's like, it's really not. I think your camera has a low resolution again. Does it? I think it's fine right now. I just think, what is this? Oh, that's the chair. Interesting. Huh, you guys can see that. No, that just makes it worse. And it's not entirely out of wits. I may have to figure out how to do this. I may have to, like, crop myself in more or something. I don't know. Okay, now it's out. Now I'm so much bigger and in your face. The only thing is... there we go. See, chat? I'm normal size, just like you guys. I'm not gigantic. Anyways. Draco is fucking nuts. Yeah, and that's like I said, I've never really understood that sentiment on Draco. For me, ultimately, at the end of the day, now I feel like I'm too low. Hmm. Better? Maybe a little better? Okay. Either way. You know your druiding has a 6% drop rate. Never tell me the odds. Anyways. Where was I at? Yeah, I've often found that people have a tendency, as chat was kind of indicating, to over exaggerate. Also, yes, I saw someone say like, "Cad, we can see the bottom of your screen." I know. I don't care. It's not a problem. If it bothers you guys, let me know. But it doesn't bother me. Golden, thank you for the follow. Welcome. It took me like 15 runs to get a paper drop on this node. All right, so is the next one up like better? Because that's all I'm trying to figure out. I assume it has a higher drop rate, but I also don't want to sit here just spamming the 20 AP one. So why don't we, in the meantime, I just wait for the storm pod? That is a fair statement, actually. Okay, take me to Fuyuki. I did it on the highest one, yeah. I mean, if you need the statues and stuff, it makes sense, or the skill gems. I don't. I did the Asclepius rank up. It has page drops. Ooh, that's actually a great idea. Because that should be pretty much guaranteeable, and I don't know if a guaranteed drop will count for it, but I suspect that it will. Will that kill? I suspect no. We're actually going to NP with her here. How many OC2 flowers I actually needed? Space Arish and Seal both want a bunch of them. Yeah. Recommended support is nice across the multiverse. My Super Orion is crushing Gawain, and his stupid 80% damage reduction. Yeah. Did you guys see, because I posted about it, Avalon was giving me the heads up on that, but China apparently got a filter when you're picking friend support for being able to filter by your extra classes. So that's something that even JP doesn't have, which is really interesting. Yeah, ultimately, chat, Seal versus Space Ereshkigal doesn't need to be a thing. Space Ereshkigal's already out. If you haven't rolled, then it is what it is. You don't have to feel like you need to roll. Simultaneously, if you want to roll, go for it. This is always that sort of thing. Saber Gray or Lancer Gray? I think that depends on your account. I was talking with Avalon about that a little bit too. I personally like Lancer Gray a little bit better for the kit. But Saber Gray is still really good. My counter to that is there are so many good AoE sabers now, and odds are most players have one by the time they're at that point. So, to me, I feel like the single target's going to have a little bit more, how should I put it? Like, a little bit more usability and usefulness to a average player. But it really, truly doesn't matter. Both versions are good. An SSR AoE Art Saber? Yeah, so I mean, like, if you feel like you need an AoE Saber, you can go for it. Okay, so we need Ume! Wait, are you kidding me? I can risk it and try to get Shadow Umu here. It's weird though, shouldn't I be able to do a Septum node to get Umu? I'm surprised it's not showing that. and put it down? Jesus, I hope not. She doesn't show up in any of them? I thought there was a shadow version of her in one of them, but yeah, maybe not. That's wild if that's the case. Either way, we'll go for it. How many MP should I go for Seal? You truly only need the one. There is some value to getting more, but Seal is, again, one of those units where it's her kit that's the dominant feature. So ultimately, at the end of the day, if you don't want to grab more than one copy, it's not the end of the world. I have NP3, and there have been a couple of things that because I have NP3 on JP, I've been able to do that other people can't. But ultimately, I don't feel like you have to have that. Diddy and Emineta, thank you for the follows. Novus is random, no free quest, yeah. And I figured I could do it, but I was like, I'll take the risk. Let's see if we can get it for 5 AP. I have a lot to do here on NA. Why don't we press buttons and see if we can make it happen? Be ready to leave with NP0 and a pile of summer shufus. God, yeah, I fucking remember that. Does Seal benefit from more NP copies since most of her damage comes from her face cards? Yes, she does. So the idea behind that is, please understand that there is the solid tactic of card NP card extra, where this is enemy number 1, this is enemy number 2, and this is enemy number 3. So having higher NP levels can help you take out annoying waves. Or again, potentially, if let's say you're in a CQ or something, it's like annoying enemies that you would not necessarily be able to either card down normally, or maybe you would be worried about having enough damage with the NP because the cards do enough damage, but maybe her NP doesn't. So getting higher levels of the NP will help out with stuff like that. Is it strictly speaking necessary? No. And can you still do a lot of the nodes regardless? Yes. But that's one of the reasons why you kind of gotta, like, pay attention to stuff like that. Whether or not I think it's an actual necessity, I truly don't. So I think it's like, it's there if you guys want to be a little bit more enthusiast and roll a little bit harder, go for it. It's certainly worth, but I don't think it's a requirement, and I don't think you guys need to go for it. Lack of MP damage isn't that big of a deal. Yeah. I would... So, you guys remember back in the day the way Jalter used to work? Very similar in that regard, where everybody used to talk about how the deal with Jalter was not her NP damage, the deal with Jalter was her crits. It's kind of that same mentality. So if you're an old school person, that should tell you exactly how to feel. If you're a newer person, well, it be what it be. Okay, so we've done everything other than number of quests and getting a page to drop. In the meantime, I have pavilion quests and a Space Ereshkigal trial quest. So let's try her out. I already kind of know how she works. I'll make a fool of myself by not using her correctly here. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm just trying to get these missions done. Usually hitting for neutral damage too. Yep. That's a 1 out of 3 node. Well, why not? Let's go ahead and use her. Is that the charge? No, that's skill cooldown reduction. It's the middle skill that's the charge, isn't it? I believe it is. Yeah, so it is what it is. Cooldown reducer. Go ahead and fire her off. And I love it. It's like we were just talking about how they're just really not going to give you an entire node full of extra classes. And what are we staring in the face? 3 alter egos. Literally one of the rarest node compositions in FGO. You can run her for NP1 just fine. Yeah. Chat, and this is the big thing I want you guys to understand. Okay, whenever you guys start asking me about should I get more? This literally just leads to this argument of what type of content are you doing? Okay? If you're doing 90 plus plus or up, the answer to this is yes. With almost any unit. If you're not, and you're doing like 90 plus or below, the answer to this becomes no. That is truly how I usually go about answering these questions. So if you want to sit there and farm a 90 plus plus node with the unit, do you need more copies? Yeah, you probably do. If you're not, and you just want to dick around and have fun with the unit, or you don't care that they can't do 90 plus plus, then no, you don't need more copies. That's really all it is. I feel like to some degree the community makes me feel like I'm taking crazy pills sometimes because of stuff like this, where I sit there and I talk a lot about it, and I still get all these people asking me these questions because I do think there is that pervasive gotta have everything, gotta have the max, gotta be in competition with the other players. And realistically speaking, really don't have to be. I think you guys have watched me for years. You've seen parts of my streaming career here where I have in P5 of just about everybody. And you've seen parts where I'm practically free to play like I am right now. And it doesn't matter. Like, my account is well taken care of enough that it pretty much is going to overcome any challenge. So that's really the way to think about it, is just do your due diligence. Take care of your account. Make sure you're working on your units. You'll eventually get everything you want and get everything done. So. And yeah, I agree with that, Peanut. I don't think 90 plus plus is strictly speaking better. I feel like a lot of the times, and this sounds so ass backward, but a lot of the times if I'm approaching a thing as a free to play, I actually want to do the 90 plus plus more. And the reason for this is because I don't have any CEs whatsoever. So I will just struggle bust my way through a 90 plus plus and like 4 turn it if I have to, just for the increased drop efficiency that may be there. But otherwise, yeah, it's like, I don't, it's really not going to be a big deal. If you can still complete an entire event shop and everything else doing 90 plus. So it's not, I really don't feel like it's as big of a deal as people make it out to be. And that's just me being like super efficient. Now, part of me, like, it serves me well because there's definitely been days here where I'm not on stream with you guys. I'm super busy doing either something in the house or like with the girlfriend here. And so as a result, I told you guys, I'm still playing FGO, still actively, but I definitely have less time to play. And so I've had to be more efficient with how I do play. So because there have been a couple of days here and there where I've had to make blue apples, I haven't like missed login, or even in the course of that day, I haven't missed doing my 3 quests a day. But there has definitely been a point where it's like, it's so late, I have a full AP bar, I'm just going to make blue apples, wake up and do it all in the morning. So there's definitely some efficiency lost there. And so as a result, I have tried instead to gain efficiency in other ways. Also, wait, what am I doing? Okay, this is the first pavilion quest. I sat there and I was like, what did I get myself into? Why am I about to go into a question mark node and I haven't paid it any attention? Do we ever get a star for event free quests? Not strictly speaking, in a normal way. Currently, right now in JP, the CQ is actually a level 100 star quest. I could show you guys that if you wanted, but that's because there's a lot of like damage bonuses flying around, so you don't have to worry about that. They made it that difficulty level on purpose, as opposed to, oh man, like we intended this to be a butt kicker. It's like, no, they actually just made it that way because they knew they had to, in order to make it so that you didn't just walk all over it. Real life is what it is and it is more important. Yep. I think, like, if you had watched me a year ago and you watched me now, you'll definitely see that change in my approach to things and my mentality on stuff. I still want to stream. I still want to be a content creator. I still want to make videos and stuff for you guys. I still want to make this more than a hobby. But I realize how important real life is, and how like the relationship absolutely must take priority at all times, no matter what. And I don't want that to make you guys sound like you're worthless or something, or that like I don't care about you. That's not the case at all. It's just there are certain things that have to come first. And it's kind of the same sentiment that I've told other content creators before, is like, if you can't take care of yourself, if you can't get your life in order, and you are struggling to stream, you should not like sit there and make your life worse just so you can stream more. It's not going to save you. It's not going to get you out of that bind that you're in. You need to take care of that. So you always have to work on your own stuff before you can help someone else, or even, you know, relax and help yourself. That's always the case. You guys gotta kind of approach things throughout your life. Cat just doesn't love us anymore. Yeah. Hope we continue Arthur love by getting him in more story and summer costume. I'm actually surprised we don't have the summer costume really for him yet. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they wanted to pull that one out this year. The event is also after time locked. Yeah. But it's like when you have like NP damage received up and defense down, and like card type damage receive up being like applied to enemies, because a lot of it on the JP server chat, it's being applied via the field buffs right now in this current event, which is a relatively new feature. You guys encountered it a little bit. I believe your first encounter was LB7 of that. But yeah, it's like, it's definitely a thing, but it doesn't necessarily need to be a big deal. Like, about the same courts I want to spin. Yeah. Which C's are you gonna pick? I already got the ace one. I actually don't know. I like, in the sense of, I truly don't remember which set these are. I'll have to look at them. How do we get more bronze saplings? I'm almost out. Doing story is how you get more. If you're completely caught up on story, then my advice to you would be to not make as many like blue apples. I know that sounds weird, but there are people that do run out, and it's usually because they're making them too often. That is to say, they're not playing the game enough. So that's something to always keep in mind, is that you should try to like at least still do your 3 runs a day. Like, try to make sure you're getting those 3 quests done a day, so that you get like the extra rewards and stuff from that. And then from there, if you want to make the rest blue apples, sure, go for it. I don't think there's a huge problem there. Oh, we're up against Bad Nobu. Bad Nobu kinda evil. Me versus editor. Cad, why did you stop doing videos? I talked about that in the post. It's not so much that I stopped as it is that I truly did not have an editor. I think And this is an interesting thing, I don't expect everybody to always like pay attention, right? So it's perfectly fine if you've missed that announcement or anything. But I do find it really funny because I think people, especially in the FGO community, people take any lack of like dedication as just that, oh, it's not that like, you know, you lost your editor. It's not that like you're a little burnt out. It's not that like I don't know, you were in a car accident or something, right? It's like it's literally that I found that the FGO community has a tendency to treat its content creators very poorly in that regard, that they immediately just assume you don't care anymore. I have definitely lost a lot of followers. I've definitely lost a lot of subscribers due to stuff like that. And I just find it really funny. I still care. Yes, I have been streaming less. Yes, I've been streaming FGO less. But to me, it's like I still love the game and I still have no problem talking with you guys about the game. Sorry to bother you, but FGO keeps refusing to sync or transfer my account. It's very frustrating. Do you know why, or is there any news on proper account binding? There is no news on proper account binding, and they do deserve to be called out for that at this point. Transfer codes are a hassle. I completely agree. FGO has no excuse. Adding this feature would help players prevent losing their accounts. Yep. You guys know I've been a big advocate for that for a while, so I'm not somebody that's gonna like sit there and be like, no, why are you whining? No, instead I'm gonna be like, yeah, you should be complaining, and you guys should try to, especially for those of you guys that do go to the live events like Anime Expo or Anime NYC, like bring it up. If you guys get the opportunity to meet some of the staff, make your voice heard. Tell them that we desperately want that website, both for account binding and for cheaper courts like prices. That's something that a lot of players, irregardless, should be able to take advantage of in some way, is that website that they have done for JP. So the hope is obviously that they continue to do something like that. I'm actually going to switch out Summer Ibuki here because I have a strong feeling that that's a better option there. I literally just rewatched your Pen 5 video, necessary info. Yep. Some of that stuff could probably use an update, but and I think truth be told, and this was definitely part of it, like I did lose a little bit of motivation to make content for FGO. Part of that reason is the community. I don't want to sit here and like say like you guys are the problem, okay? But truth be told, I watched as my videos used to pull in like 10,000 views to now I am lucky if a video pulls in 100 views. That is super demoralizing. That is super disheartening for a content creator. I don't like blame you guys. I understand that some of that is just due to natural attrition that the game has had. There are far less people watching FGO content. And I think that's natural. It's just one of those deals of like part 2 is kind of over. The game is very much in a, how should I put it, solved state. So naturally there's going to be a lot of people who are like, I don't fucking care. Like I'm not watching anymore. I know how the game works. And so they just stop paying attention and they start paying attention instead to other gacha games or something like that. So that just to me, it's a very natural thing. But from the content creator perspective, you still get bummed out by it. You still want to be successful and still grow your brand, grow your channel, and try to produce good content. But that sort of stuff does begin to just chip away at you over time, and it's been chipping away at me for a long time. So I definitely feel like that's there. It's the idea of you're spending hours doing something for very little like reward, very little thanks. Unfortunately, I hate to say it, but I feel like being a content creator in the FGO sphere is a very thankless job. I'd say your average Joe probably hates FGO content creators, and we could break that down, like the psychology of that and why that is. But to me, I just look at that as it is what it is. I can't really change that. I can just try to do the best that I can, right? But as I look towards that, I start going like, okay, so there's just naturally a issue that I think a lot of people have with FGO content creators. And so as you start to see that, you're kind of realizing that it's an uphill battle. Then add in the fact that, like, for me as an NA content creator, I'm working 2 years behind. I definitely still cover JP, and it's one of the reasons that I did that. I think it's honestly been one of the biggest factors of my success, was the fact that I have been able to have a foot in both worlds in numerous ways, so to speak. So that was definitely something. I'm gonna get cooked here since this is Space Odysseus, and I guarantee he's gonna have an instant charge NP here in a minute. But essentially, like, that's something that I've known for a while, and I have tried to do my best to mitigate. But, you know, after 8 years of covering the game, after making just about every guide that I can think of for the game, and trying to just kind of settle into a, like, pace and be able to produce content consistently for you guys, unfortunately, yeah, like, viewership just kind of died out, and there was not really a lot I could do about it. The only thing that I could try was, again, to basically find a new editor and keep going, which, like I said, I definitely want to keep producing FGO content for you guys. But I think, like, whereas now the channel had been a 100% FGO channel, that will not be the case going forward. I am going to try to do other content styles on there. That is something that I really do want. I understand that that's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. The only things I can ask you guys, that you still give the other content a chance, and that you don't, like, sit there and go like, oh, he made a non-FGO video, time to unsubscribe, or something like that. So, like, just have a little bit of patience, just have a little bit of understanding. But I would like to try to grow beyond just FGO, so that it's not like I haven't put all my eggs in one basket, and when FGO's doing poorly, you know, boom, there you go. I've lost all of my progress and everything that I've worked towards. So, comma counters the Sard, yeah. Good old charm. I'm here to listen to you yap. FGO or something else doesn't matter. Thank you, Shadow. I appreciate that. And there's definitely still a good core chunk of you guys that still come no matter what I'm doing, and I really am thankful for that. I truly do appreciate everything that you guys do to support me. Great insight on charge breakdowns and proper use of coins. Yep. Okay, this'll be awful. Let's see if we can get Beowulf to full. Or maybe beat Space Odysseus to death. He's got one turn, and of course I've got a triple buster chain. Go me. Yeah, we're just gonna do it like that. Just prioritize a little bit of charge for their Arthur here, but it's really not going to matter. He's actually beaten up on MASH pretty hard there. Arthur still should have his 20%. I don't believe we have the 30% unlocked yet for him. I have 10 there, and MASH has another 20. So I can do about 50, but he's at 47. So I'm just kind of screwed at that point. Let's do that right there. Just beat up Space Odysseus for another turn. Hope to God he doesn't charge to full immediately. This is my capture card glitching out. I don't say much but lurk. Yeah, and I appreciate the lurking. Like, even if you guys feel like I'm not streaming something you care about, like, come in, say hello, drop a lurk. That definitely helps me out. I think a lot of people think that, like, content creators don't care, and that, like, we are very toxic, and I'm sure there are a lot that are. I don't view myself as that. I always do appreciate when you guys come in. I appreciate everybody that lurks me, and I think viewers don't realize how important they are to content creators. You guys are the lifeblood of the stream. Yes, I'm technically the one that's, like, emceeing it and keeping things going, but you guys commenting and chatting in the chat, keeping the stream active, makes it feel like it's alive, and that actually attracts more viewers. Same thing, view count. The more views I have, the better off I look to other prospective viewers. So it's definitely a thing that I think a lot of people don't consider, but it is very important to a content creator to have his chat be active, to have his chat actually, like, full and, you know, generally, like, positive as well. GTA RP and FPS I couldn't care about. Yeah. Mr. Beast Hunter. Yep. Okay, so this is gonna be a foot race to kill Odysseus here. Well, that will work. Hopefully that shreds his defense. I'm always here, I just don't talk. Yeah, that's all good. Like I'm not sitting here trying to like out you guys or anything. You plan on rolling the new JP guy? I actually need to look at him a little bit. I've been considering it. Obviously, I could care less about the character. I think the design is stupid, and you know, it is what it is. But the kit. The kit is one where having another 70% charger could be really, really valuable. Something to watch while I'm waiting for something to do. Yeah. And if you guys ever feel the need to rewatch, do me the favor, go subscribe to the VODs channel, the CAD Plays channel on YouTube, because one, that's going to help that channel out. But two, if you guys watch it over there, YouTube actually gives revenue when someone watches. Twitch does not. Like, when you guys watch me on Twitch, the only way I get revenue is either from you guys watching ads. I don't like to run them too often, or you guys subscribing to me. So ultimately, at the end of the day, and I'm not saying that that's not important, it is, but ultimately at the end of the day, one of the easy ways you guys can help me is if you ever need to rewatch something, just watch it on YouTube, because that actually does give some revenue. Rewatching is easier on YouTube than Twitch. Yeah, that too. It's usually easier to find as well. Okay, so next up is just a berserker fight. I like how I went in, I had no idea what that fight was, and I just made it work. Double X, get in here. Dad, which servants do you think will be getting this Annie's animation update this time? I don't know. I actually hadn't thought about that. The animation updates has been something that they said they were going to do more often, and we haven't seen that very much. So hopefully they do something. There's a lot that's still needed, so I hesitate to actually like offer someone up in this regard, but obviously I still feel like there's some saber faces that could use it, so you guys know my bias in that regard. Okay, let's try to one tap. Smashing! Early summer units really need them. When is Seal coming? Seal will come. So I believe live streams on the 14th. So it probably means that the event will start on the 15th. And Seal is the first banner. So you should get her pretty much right away. Didn't David get new animations? Actually, yeah, you're right. I think he did. Ozzy, please. Bro, yeah. Like, I've never felt like Ozzy's NP is that bad, but Ozzy's... the fact that Ozzy has basic caster animations as a writer hurts so much. Like, it just does not need to be that way. Moon Cancer. So this is going to be a hot to trot ruler. Yeah, sure. Why don't we, since we were talking about it earlier, why don't we show off Kenshin? There's actually is overlap. Good. Well, there could be overlap unless somehow they do the live stream on the 14th and then don't start the event right away. God, coconut milk. Apparently, coconut milk is packed with calories. Because I was watching something about Henry Cavill saying that that's how he consumed 5,000 calories a day for Superman was he basically put everything in a coconut milk smoothie. Should I spend on Space Airish to try to get NP2 or seal NP2 when she releases? If your choice is NP1 of one and NP2 of the other, I do believe that NP2 of Space Airish will at least make your Space Airish feel a little bit more usable. But that's up to you. And as chat was just mentioning, there is an overlap, so at least potentially. So you don't necessarily have to make a decision yet. All Ozzy does is shoot tiny lasers. Yeah. I mean, still, that's more lasers than some sabers. It's on the 15th, so there you go. Oh, well, there you go. Yeah, I had not heard, but I mean, it's not surprising to me. Also, I feel like I should say this, but thank you again to everybody that showed up for the anniversary stream. That made me feel really happy. I think, obviously, you guys know I used to stream to like 400 people average. It's nice to see like that kind of turnout, even if it's only once a year, because it makes you realize it's like so much of like my viewership is not necessarily even a reflection of me so much as it is just the popularity of the game. And that it's kind of like, oh yeah, still got it, right? Like, so it does make me feel a lot better to see that stuff. Quite the boost from the new Archer support. Really happy about that. Wait, which one? You talking about Erd? Lancer Alta really needs one. She does. Like her, if you guys ever go watch Lancer Alta's arcade animation, it is so much better than her FGO one. Hmm. Yeah, chat's basically saying that it starts on the 15th per the news, so which is what I was already hypothesizing. Hello, CZ, how's it going, bud? How have you been? Busy on July 4th, go figure. Yeah, I was very happy to be able to cover that. Just from the standpoint of I've definitely missed several of the NA streams of late, just due to the way my schedule works. Like, I can no longer guarantee that I can be live on a given day, but I specifically like requested to the girlfriend, like, hey, like I know we're doing something Saturday, but you know, can I be home for stream that night just so I could cover it with you guys? And it's not like she obviously obliged. It's not like she's trying to keep me from streaming or anything like that. So I don't want anyone to get the wrong idea. It's just one of those deals of, again, like I mentioned before, relationship is the priority. Spending quality time is always going to be like my big deal with her. So definitely something that I'm trying to balance with stream. But ultimately, at the end of the day, she is more important than stream. Sorry, chat. What is this node? I don't know, but we'll find out here real quick. New system on JP to grind. I think a ton of us are done with class score now. Oh, yeah. I'm sure people are, because, like, I was done the day you could be done with class score. And I'm sure I'm not alone in that. So there's got to be quite a few people that are actually like, hey, look, I know this is a thing, but can you give us something else to do? Let's do that. If you had to pick a top 1 servant and excluding supports, who would be your choice and why? Since you didn't specify further, I'm just gonna say my favorite, which is gonna be Lartoria. Because, like, if you said top 1, it's like, are we talking performance? Or are we just talking whatever my preference is? So I always go with my preference. Have you seen the Chinese server's 10th ANI update? They got the class selector and exports now. Yeah, I was actually the one that tweeted about it. I don't think a lot of people did. But it's definitely interesting. And it's something that to me is surprising just from the stance of, like, I would never expect that, like, NA would get something before JP. Similarly, I would never expect that China would get something before JP. So it's, to me, it's very odd that they went that route. I want the card effectiveness. But the invincible 3x3 turns when he spams attacks is where I'm like, I don't know about that, boss. Work stuff been very busy. I get that. Loving Draco to 120s Victoria next. Nice. Yeah, leveling the extra classes to 120 is always a little bit more problematic, because if you don't have the all cards to do it, it just gets dumb. She's so close to a bar break. I'm gonna get fried here on the break. They're just gonna try to card her to death. And that's gonna make you NP me, isn't it? Oh, no? Fudge. Ugh, those burn stacks are getting nasty. This is pretty much just throw everything and go. I get the highest modifier here potentially by putting... Well, no. I don't know if this is considered a servant. I don't think it is. Both finishing my 3rd class score on NA. I haven't touched my class scores on NA in a hot second. I should probably go look at them. Like, again, I still haven't wasted any of my storm pods or anything, but it's a thing. Do you think we'll get that? The selector? Sorry, for what? Like the ability to filter extra classes? Or like the 30 million selector that you guys are talking about? We should get the 30 million. Ah! Oh, joy. I'm so happy that Super Ryan comes out already burning. Yeah, this is a Barghest opportunity if I've ever seen one. Get that heal in. Nobody's going to be affected by this except her. I'm not going to apply that yet. I don't believe Super Ryan will get clobbered here. There goes Draco. Okay, let's see what cards we get. Oh, hi, Gawain. Well, this is a Barcast if I've ever seen it. Oh, what'd you get on the GSSR and Destiny Order Summon? That's for you to watch on the YouTube side of things. You'll see. We'll be producing videos for that. Burning Fluffy, yep. Come on, crit. There we go. Requires crits to loop, but it worked. He looks so angry. That's kind of asking for it. We'll let Super Ryan get a hit in. I should have let Bargu kill it, but it is what it is. It's threat against humanity, yeah. I truly have not, like, paid attention. I'm not looking at a guide or anything when I go into these, so I've just been kind of doing it. Chat, is the water fluffy actually next? Will we have the ability to use storm pods on non-OC nodes? I believe that's coming up. I don't remember when. I believe that's like... Is it New Year's that we get that, or is it earlier? Is it January? I was gonna say, I didn't think that was with the 30 million. At least we get plenty of plenty of quartz from doing those quests. And we got all that. Let me go through the mailbox here. So much QP. Okay. Oh, is this filtered? What is this filtered to? Oh, God. Let's see. What else is here? Okay, so just some foes. And technically the Annie C. I guess I'll pull that out right now since I actually have the space. It is super giant, destroyed in 2 turns with Black Grail Fujino. Nice. Yeah, I mean, again, like I said, these were not so hard that I couldn't just... I literally used a farming comp and just changed whatever the main DPS was to whatever I felt would be a good thing against the type of enemy. And when I say type, I mean the class. Like, that's really all I looked at for this. So I at least got those done. Missions wise, we should be good, other than, again, I just need to keep doing quests, and then I guess the paper item there, which we'll get when we get storm pods. I'm done with dailies and weeklies, so we're good on that front. I need to get my craft essences. Chat has already indicated. Okay, so wait, so why are these preparing still? Do we not have all the pavilion quests yet? Oh, I have to finish OC2. Fuck me. Okay. God, I'm so unused to that. I'm almost always like up to date with stories, so that's a new change of pace. Okay, so we got Ask. I actually like this. She looks kind of like Nami here. Oh yeah, the Barghest one. Did I pick the Barghest one on JP? I feel like I did. And then the Musashi one where it's part Gantz outfit, part Attack on Titan. And then MHX. That hairstyle just looks so weird on Boudica. I don't think it looks bad, but that's just an odd one to me. Nice. That's basically aerial drive. Yes, the Raiko dress. Crazy. Okay, chat. Well, this one's gonna be easy. I don't need to troll you guys. I think you guys know which ones I'm picking. There's definitely a lot of good ones this time around, though, I feel. Actually, I didn't look at the Andromeda one. Yeah, the Andromeda one's not bad either. Like, some of these Cs are just downright... Oof. Wow. And then Ace here. So we're gonna grab Ash and MHX. I can't believe Cad picked the Saberface Cs, right? It's almost like I have a type. Much Doge, much WoW, yeah. I need to find a way to get the dog cam working, because last I checked, it still didn't. Let me actually see if I can boot it real fast. Ever since I switched over my internet, this thing has just not worked, and I've never been able to figure out why. Yeah, I just can't connect to it. So I will have to see if I can get that working. That explains that. What, like, why I haven't had dog cam working? Yeah. We got Malter on Destiny Order. Is she as bad as people say? No. God, people are stupid. And I don't mean you. I mean, like, people will sit there and just bash a unit because it doesn't have, like, the best kit imaginable. And I'm like, I don't understand this. Again, I've made it a big thing on this channel to always teach you guys about, like, how to use a unit, how to get the most out of a unit. If you know how to get the most out of a unit, you can do amazing shit with the unit. That's the way it always boils down to. Nobody Saberface anniversary sees this year. It is what it is. There was 2. If not, it's not like I didn't have a plethora of other good ones to pick from. I do, however, need to buy this shit before it expires. Anyways. Yeah, this is 4-star. People say, like, she's the worst 4-star writer. Look, it is what it is. I'm gonna say at this point, I don't want to, like, point fingers or name names. There's just people that I think give the community a really bad sense of things and are very misguided. And unfortunately, a lot of people have a tendency to echo the sentiments that those people say. And that's all it is. I disagree fundamentally with their takes on the game. And that's kind of why when you guys come to ask me about this stuff, I usually shoot you straight. I usually talk to you guys instead about, like, oh, is this unit good? Is this unit bad? No, this is how you use this unit. Like, Maid Altar? Yes, I can literally sit there and make Maid Altar work, make her very effective. Do I think Maid Altar could use buffs? Yes, I do. Do I think Maid Altar is bad? No, I don't. Do I think that, like, honestly, I think a lot of the Rider class in general is in sore need of some upgrades. Rider is one of the lesser, particularly on the single target realm of things, Rider is one of the lesser buffed classes. And that's something I think a lot of people forget about. What that means is eventually they'll get buffed. Eventually you'll see some sort of movement in that direction. But until that happens, it is what it is. But that's where it's like I'm not so quick or harsh to judge on the performance of a unit when I know stuff like that. Kentucky Rider is better than her. His kick is basic but effective. Maid Alter can outdamage Kentucky Rider. Card performance wise, Kentucky Rider is better. This is where, like, that's why I said, like, people often get reductive and they get caught up in like Curb, no offense. Ever since that statement got made, you've been sitting there in chat going on like a diatribe about why she's mid. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. People get it like in their mind that this is the way it is, and they're going to sit there and argue for it. I've probably used Maid Alter more than anybody in this chat. I am very aware of how she works. I'm very upfront about it. And look, it is what it is. This is where I know the performance of the unit. I think the reason this sort of thing bothers me is I see people attempt to write units off. I see people attempt to shit on them to make the rest of chat not like the unit and not use the unit. And I've never understood that type of agenda. Like, I truly don't get it. Why is it that, like, if one unit's better than the other unit or outperforms it in one way, that you still, like, see the need to shit on that other unit and be like, oh, don't use that unit, guys. I don't understand it. And the reason why I don't, to be clear, is that this is a collector game. This is a game where people use their favorite units. You don't care which unit is the best unless you're just absolutely metagaming. And yeah, I do think it's nice to know that stuff, but ultimately at the end of the day, you're going to use your favorite units anyways. So I feel like an approach of how do I use the unit effectively has always been the better approach, rather than this unit is the best, this unit shits on that other unit. Because, like, let's say, for instance, we want to die on the hill that Kentucky Rider is better than Maid Alter. Okay, I'll let you have that. But now you're super invested in Kentucky Rider, and I'm going to tell you that Kentucky Rider isn't even the top 2 best riders out there right now for welfares. There are 2 better welfares than Kentucky Rider right now. And that's where it's like, it just becomes a never-ending circle jerk. A is better than B, but C is better than B, but D is better than A, but it really doesn't matter. So I don't really understand why the community seeks to argue about these things time and time again. Like, and again, not to go too hard on this, to pull back myself here as well. Please understand, I can be wrong. And I do still want you guys to have open discussions with me and we can talk about it. I just don't like shitting on other units just to shit on other units. Some people in the community fucking love that stuff. As somebody that I will still never forget, that when Lartoria got her most recent buff, people were like, the worst SSR just got buffed. And I laughed so fucking hard at that. Because if that was people's take, they truly were just actually stupid about how this game works and do not understand its mechanics. That's the only way that I can, like, view that sort of sentiment. Is that, like, if somehow you thought Lartoria was the worst, man, have I got another thing coming for you. So... if you are looking for purely gameplay choice, there are better options. I do agree with that. I think there's units that are a lot easier to use than Made Alter. The worst SSR was Constantine until his buff. Yeah, I would pretty much agree with that. And then, like, post his buff, I still think there's some units that are in a fucking terrible position. Far more so than Lartoria that was actually usable, right? And this is where I think a lot of people get caught up in naturally on like one or two things. They get caught up usually either on like some damage list, or they get caught up on like, you know, like meta charge scenarios where it's like, oh, like this unit charges 50%, which makes them better than a unit that charges 30%. Or this unit charges 70%, they're now better than a unit that charges 50%. The game is not that simple, and people do have niches. So that's where I know over time that's the way it is. Glad you clarified. Yeah, I think one of the things that's upsetting to me about Made Alter and the way that her kit works is the wind-up aspect to it. Because, and to be clear, that's not unique to Made Alter. There are several other units in the game that have a wind-up aspect that I have found to be handled poorly. And here's the reason that I have that take. Because when you have a unit out there like Melt, that was a wind-up unit, that the devs looked at, said, this sucks. Nobody likes this. Let's change it. And then they changed it for Melt, and they didn't necessarily change it for the other ones. I go like, well, why haven't you changed it for the other ones? You know that it sucks. You know that that mechanic is not fun for the player. So to me, I would much rather see them make adjustments. And that's usually where I get critical. That's usually where I start calling them out, and where I'll be upfront about the deficiencies of a unit with you guys is when I feel like, hey, the devs haven't done a good job. The devs need to do better. Very rarely have I ever cautioned you guys against rolling for a unit. Chat pointed out the status of Constantine before his buff. Constantine was definitely a unit that I told people not to roll. It's one of the very few times in FGO that I've ever done that. And the reason that I did it was because truly it felt like a trap, in the sense of, if you rolled for that unit, like, yes, you could roll for the unit, you could get some enjoyment out of it, but the gameplay there was truly not there. It was, you could see that they were trying to make it a defensive unit, but it didn't compare well. And then they ended up giving him a buff. It made him a lot better. And then it's like, okay, now I've changed my tune. Now I feel like if you guys want to go after him, you're definitely more than welcome to. He's not a bad pickup anymore. As opposed to before, I felt like he certainly was. But like I said, that took a very poor result from the design standpoint out of the gate. And I'm somebody that, give you guys clarification as to this and why I felt that way about Constantine. I felt that way about Constantine. I did not feel that way about Summer Nobu. Sorry, Mao Nobu. Mao Nobu, out the gate, a lot of people bashed. A lot of people said that was a worthless unit. A lot of people said this unit's terrible and it sucks. I never felt that way about Mao Nobu. I looked at Mao Nobu, I said, yeah, there's some issues here, but I see how to use this unit. Why don't other people see how to use this unit? Does it maybe have some performance problems in terms of overall output and damage and stuff? Yeah. But is this a bad unit? Some people were calling, when Mao Nobu came out, the worst unit in the game. And I was like, no. Like, what? So it's that same mentality, and that's where I think a lot of this comes from for me, and that's why I just feel so passionate about that sentiment. That the devs truly have to release an actual dud before I will sit there and tell you guys not to roll. I can caution you guys against it, or I can say, hey, there's nothing special about this unit, but I'm not going to tell people not to roll unless I feel like the devs actually did something bad. Also, who said Lartoria was the worst SSR? She's behind Melisson. It's actually better than Melisson. So there you go. and this is another one of those things. So depending on how you look at things, right? The highest damage AoE Lancer is literally Lartoria right now. People will argue that that's not the case. I welcome the comparison. But this is, and this is the reason why I pick it. And I'm sorry, it feels like I'm picking on you, Curb. I'm truly not trying to here. I'm just trying to point out that this is the thing that I see a lot of people will run with, like, either a lack of knowledge or they'll get a number from someone else that's not an accurate number. Like, for instance, I know there's the NP damage spreadsheet that's floating around. Those numbers are absolutely vacuum numbers and should not be taken with any seriousness. There's so much that changes when you start actually factoring in buffs and damage calculations that when people start to look at quote unquote just the NP damage sheet, it makes so many assumptions it's hardly useful. It's why I used to use that sheet years ago as a content creator, and about the second year of being a content creator, I stopped using it. It was that problematic for assumptions, because people would take one look at the sheet and be like, ha, unit A higher than unit B, and they were wrong. Like, I still remember people thought, like, even post Altera's like amazing buff that made her good, people were sitting there arguing that she was not good and that like her damage numbers were not there. Why? Because they looked at the NP sheet. And it's like, you don't understand. This is a sum of all parts. The end result is much stronger due to the magnification and multiplication of buffs that are going on here. And that's why I've realized a lot of that's a problem. And how you can make a better defensive unit than 5-star MASH now. To be fair, that was always an uphill battle. You have to at least be able to offer something different than MASH to stand out. When you have a free unit, that's definitely going to be a hard road to hoe. And sorry, free is not necessarily the best term. Free and literally everyone has it. Like, there are welfares that people still don't have due to, you know, just problems with their account or the newness of their account. Every account has MASH. So that's obviously going to be a issue. Since they'll likely get a Mao Nobu turnaround. Oh, you're talking about Constantine? Yeah. And I told people, like, if you want to roll Constantine, go for it. Like, if you're just trying to collect every single unit in the game, or you feel like you want to play around with them, it's a thing. But it was the reason why it's like when people were asking, hey, CAD, should I roll? My answer was no. It's very rare. You can get creative and buff units to insanity, which the NP sheet doesn't take into account. Correct. And that's why I say, like, oftentimes we have to sit here and we have to ask ourselves, like, what's important? Is it damage? Is it charge? Is it, like, wife status? Is it, like, CQ ability? Sorry, that's supposed to be a C, but it looks more like a G. Like, GQ ability. But, like, I feel like for this, for every player, these numbers are different. They're always going to change. And it really just depends on what you're looking at, what you want out of the unit, what you want out of your account. So, like, for instance, let's say you're a Rin fan. Let's say you're a Mel fan. And let's say you're a Saber fan. If you go up to these three people and you ask them, who is the best Lancer in the game, you will get 3 different results. That's the truth of the matter. And this is, I think, something that I try to point out to you guys. Bias is a hell of a drug. Everybody has their biases. Everybody. Like, myself included. I'm just very upfront about my biases, and I let you guys know. And when it comes to, like let's remove character biases from this. I have a bias as a player. What do I mean? My bias is that this game is 99% farming. So how I advise you guys to build your accounts is based off of that. That assumption that the game is predominantly farming and always will be. So I will always tell you guys to focus on certain things. Like, that doesn't mean that, like, CQ isn't important, okay? That doesn't mean that, like, there aren't challenge fights and story fights that you guys have to get through. I will still tell you guys to get good key units for that. But when I tell you guys, like, hey, here's where you should spend extra NP levels, it's going to be on this side of things most of the time, right? Like think about that. And that's why I'm telling you that. Because after being a veteran of this game for literally the better part of a decade, I can tell you guys this is what works in my experience. In other players' experiences, it maybe works in other ways. That's something to consider too, is that just because somebody has a different take doesn't mean they're wrong. They just have a different set of experiences. The thing to ask yourself is, how do you want to play? Do you want to be the CQ guy? Do you want to be doing time attacks? Do you want to be somebody that's like, just, you don't really care about farming, you don't really care about CQs, you're just here for the story? Or are you going to be like, you know, Mr. I'm going to farm everything, I'm going to get all my units maxed out, I'm going to get everybody up to 999 on their skills, like... So there are different approaches to how to play the game and different priorities. That's where that's going to impact your capability. The thing is, and I think most people would still agree that this is the case. Even the CQ group, even the people that are very like just story only or something like that, they're gonna tell you the game is 99% farming. You have to farm. It's the only way you get anything done, and farming is truly the end game of this game. So ultimately, at the end of the day, you have to do some farming, and the only question is how much. And the how much is going to be answered by, again, like, are you a CQ guy, or do you just not care about farming in general? So that's where that is. But that's what ultimately focuses a lot of my advice for you guys on your accounts. It's what ultimately focuses a lot of my kind of viewpoint on the game and units and how units play into things. But also, I am somebody that, as a player, I'm a collector. I'm not necessarily as much as other players. I definitely know people that own every single unit in the game. I know people that have every single unit in the game in P5. I'm not that. But I'd say I have probably 95% of the units. And of the units that I have at higher NP levels, it's usually the units I care about. Very rarely have I rolled for like an additional NP level of somebody that I didn't care about. There's definitely been some strategic gameplay choices that I've made on any of the accounts that I've played, but ultimately this is the pattern that I see echoed over time. And I think this may be an assumption on my part, but I would wager that the vast majority of players are also this archetype. The vast majority of people that play FGO treat it as a waifu husbando collector, and they literally are only going to go higher MP levels on the units that they care about. They're not here for the time attacks, they're not here for the challenges, they're not here just for the story. Like, if you've been playing this game for a period of time, heck, I'll be honest, even just getting to the end of the story implies that you have more of a love of the game and its mechanics than just the story. Because everybody that I've ever seen that played FGO just for the story eventually burns out and just watches, like, YouTube summaries. Because the story takes so long to get through otherwise. And that doesn't mean that the story's bad. I'm not trying to say that. It's just that, like, if that's truly all you care about and you don't like the game, you're not going to be long for playing the game. You'll just find some other way to consume the story. But that's where again, I'm telling you guys this, I'm disclosing my bias. I'm disclosing that this is what I think and feel about the game. And that's where a lot of my advice comes from. That's why I tell you guys and advise you guys in the way that I do. Because, yeah, somebody may be somebody that's just like, hey, they're a meta slave. They only care. Like, if Unit A does 15,000 damage and Unit B does 15,001 damage, then Unit B is superior. And that's not necessarily a wrong way to play. That's just the way they play. That's the way they think about things. The reason I challenge those people is to make you realize that, yeah, but I mean, that one damage is really not making a difference. And we can extrapolate this more. This is an extreme example. We could say it's, 15 and 100. Like, yes, is that going to make a damage when you start applying a bunch of buffs and stuff? Yeah, it will. Is the damage going to be statistically significant and actually matter to your ability to clear the node? Probably not. There's definitely some instances where it might, but usually you're going to need a lot more to make a difference there. So we're here for the characters. Yeah, that's fair. Like, I'm not trying to, I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm not trying to attack other people for having a different viewpoint or a different playstyle to the game. That is what it is. I'm letting you guys know this is my playstyle. This is why I have the stance that I do. And that stance has served me very well over time, both as a player and as making guides for you guys. I often get a lot of positive reception on the guides that I make because, from working with people over the years, working with Bob, working with Avalon, like, I kind of at least have a feeling for usually what players care about, what you guys want to know. And that's usually what I make my guides around. Always love your guides. Thank you, Xanath. Appreciate it. Looks like Unit A is trash. Yeah. The seal farming machine is not going to make a difference. True. Yeah, I mean, like, you guys can use seal for farming, but you don't have to use seal for farming. That's not the requirement. Where seal's truly going to make a difference is in the CQ realm of things. Kat, are you going to do buff breakdown? What do you mean by buff breakdown? Like the buffs that are coming out on an A, the buffs that have been done on GP? What am I doing? Sorry, I'm still thinking here because I'm trying to figure out what the heck I need to do. I guess we'll just spin down AP by doing some other stuff. Actually, someone was pointing out the Asclepius thing, so let me... Do I still have Asclepius's rank up to do? Or was it an interlude? Or did I already do it? Under Cleo, you passed it? Oh, God, yeah, he has his mask on, no wonder. Okay. So let's just roll on in here. I'll actually swap her out. Swap in a Surfmo. The JP one, like Atlanta and Arthur. Actually, I haven't looked at the Atlanta one. I know Avalon brought it up to me, but I have not taken a hard look at that one. The Arthur one I did. Because I obviously, and Avalon knows this, I obviously had some questions. And this is another interesting thing too. I have a philosophy for how this game's balance should work that is hit or miss. Usually the devs are very in line with my philosophy, but sometimes the devs do things that make me scratch my head. And I don't think it's that they're necessarily not in line. I think it's that their priorities shifted temporarily due to, like, something else happening. But, like, for instance, over the years, I have predicted several buffs. Just in the sense of looking at the unit, knowing what it needs, saying what I think would actually do really well. So, like, for instance, chat, let's take Mordred. Not Surf Mode. Let's take OG Mordred. I still remember people being like, I mean, Saber does more damage, so they're going to give Mordred more damage. And I was like, nah, I bet they buff her middle skill to give her more crit damage. And then they did that. And the reason why is because a lot of the times when I start looking at a unit, I look at, like, what is this unit? What does this unit need? Also, what is the identity of this unit? And I think the devs look at it that way too. the devs go, what, like, we have to keep the unit as what it is. Like, yeah, sure. Let's take Surfmo, for instance. It's like, let's give Surfmo a buff. What do we give Surfmo a buff? Well, we need her to do more damage. I know, let's, like, allow her to switch her NP to Buster. Huh? Like, that's not in line with Surfmo at all. Why would they do that? So, obviously, there's certain things where it's like, yes, that could be something they would do, but most people wouldn't reasonably expect them to do that. Do you think Nasu and Takeuchi override a unit to be busted to achieve certain lore? Yes, kind of. In a weird way, we actually know that Nasu does oversight the buffs. This came out in an old interview back in like year 2. That Nasu actually does have to sign off on every buff for lore reasons. Now, how much he chooses the buff, I don't know. Versus how much he maybe like says like, hey, I want this buff to be stronger, or I want the name of this to be this. Like that, we don't know. We don't know how much Nasu really like is gonna control that sort of thing. And the only way to know would be to ask him. That, like, truly. Like Arthur's Beast Power mod? Yeah, I mean, lore-wise, Arthur's Beast Power mod makes perfect sense. So. Yes, giving everyone charge is a lore reason. Right, so you have to assume it's like, there's definitely some gameplay considerations that make it in there. But then you also wonder, like, is that a thing? And to be clear, chat, does Nasu just do the names and is that all he does? No. We know for a fact that's not the case. How do we know this? Same interview, I believe, or another one around that time, but Nasu basically talked about the Cersei buff. For those of you guys that, or not buff, but I think it was like the designer for Kit. He talked about how she has Pigify on her NP. And that he specifically mandated the way that Pigify worked, gameplay-wise. The devs warned him. The devs told him, no, don't do that. That's going to make us have to put a qualifier on every single entity that we fight in the game. And every single ally as to whether or not they can be pigified. That is a stupid way of doing it, Nasu. Don't do it that way. And Nasu said, no, we're doing it that way. So Nasu does, like, get to override them on gameplay decisions. Why? I don't know. But it is definitely a thing. He has full creative control if he wants it. Does that mean he does it all the time? No. No, I don't think he does. But there's certainly times where he probably does. Was done for gameplay reasons because they knew she was underpowered and everyone agreed at the time it was a lame buff. Yeah, that's one of those where I truly just don't believe that was a good buff for Osaka Behime. I don't think Osaka Behime is a bad unit, but I think like when you look at certain units, like again, let's use Surfmo as the example. What is Surfmo, chat? She's an arts looping writer. Chat, what is Osaka Behime? Like, is there an archetype that Osaka Behime fits into? Because I don't really feel like there is. She's just a vague pseudo support for Quick that's also kind of a crit machine and buff stripper. Doesn't actually support... Like this is the problem. We don't really, like, at first we could have said, like, oh yeah, she's just Quick, but now it's like Quick Buster, and so you're like, I don't feel like the devs have a clear vision for what they want to do with Osaka Behime. It doesn't mean you can't use Osaka Behime well. doesn't mean she's bad. It's just she is very niche, and what that niche is, I'm not sure I can tell you. Like, solos? And is that even a niche? I don't really know. In a game that's designed to have a party, is a unit's solo ability a niche? Maybe. But, like, we can look at, like, every unit that's really good at solos. Like, let's take, like, Ku Lancer or Herc. Oh, they're a solo artist. It's like, yeah, but we call them a cockroach. AKA, they're very difficult to kill. So they're just survivalists. That's really all that it boils down to. We don't care about their damage, it's more the fact that they can't be killed. Which can apply in more than just a solo environment. So to me, like, being a solo artist isn't necessarily a thing. It doesn't mean that it's like a bad thing that a unit can or can't do that. It's just one of those things where you look at it and you go like, huh? I have so many of these I need to do. I actually think I'm going to do Benny Enmas because Benny Enmas is kind of important to her, given the fact that it helps her steroid-wise. We're certainly not going to take a writer in here. How about that? Let's take Musashi, even though I may regret this refund-wise. Topic of quick support. Did Summer Tiamat eventually save quick? I think that definitely is going to be defined by, did Quick still need saving by the time Summer Tiamat came out? I think there's a decent argument to be made that yes, she did. And that she is the start of that happening. But I think you can honestly argue that that happened before Summer Tiamat. That they had already been adding additional options for Quick. But she is definitely a point where we can say, line in the sand, with Summer Tiamat here, Quick is a lot more viable as like a farming comp and odd structured nodes, that sort of thing. Prior to that point, you're definitely looking at either a weird cocktail of supports or over-reliance on crit RNG. And when I say over-reliance on crit RNG, Summer Tiamat functionally makes critting an automatic thing. So that's where it's like, yeah, to me, I think she is at least a point that I can say, like, yes, as of Summer Tiamat, Quick is very good. Whether or not she, like, Quick was good before that point, whether or not she's the actual savior of Quick, I don't know. I think that's a little bit more obscure, and I think you can go back earlier than her to say, like, hey, yeah, like, them making some of these changes was good. Like, I can honestly argue that them changing things to add Mighty Chain and them basically increasing the effects of the Quick Chain were the start. Then they started adding more units. And I think throughout that, with every unit they added, it got better and better and better. It got more and more and more responsive and resultive. I still think Quick maybe has a little bit of a sustain issue down the line, but it's not a big issue anymore. And I think that's partially because units like Summer Tiamat have, you know, party protection built in, and that's something that's really good for Quick. Something that, frankly and unfortunately, I think Quick struggled a little bit with regards to whatchamacallit. With regards to that survivability maybe ahead of time. Quick was very much, I feel like, in the past in the kill or be killed idea and mindset, where Quick specialized in like min turns and stuff. If you got perfect RNG at shredding the fight in the fastest possible way. But naturally for like your average player, that's not a thing. That's where it's like, I've definitely seen that, for instance, for years, I know the Minturn community felt like Quick was actually the most overpowered setup for that reason. But meanwhile, your average player felt like Quick was shit. Why? Where's the disconnect? Well, it's because the Minturners are sitting there trying to get the best possible result, whereas, and they don't care how long that takes necessarily, how many attempts, right? Versus the average player just wants to complete the fight. So they're looking for high consistency. So best possible versus high consistency. And that's where you're seeing it. Quick had some insane capabilities, but it was not consistent with it. So now with more options, now with more capability, Quick has become more consistent. And so now we can definitely say it's in a lot better spot. The refund damage problem for Quick, yeah. Damage wasn't an issue with Quick, really. It really wasn't. Damage has always been Quick's forte. Both in terms of the actual modifier for Quick is a slight edge, but also in the sense of like just Quick crits have always been pretty redonkulous ever since Scotty. So as we start looking down the line, it became more of the deficiencies of the actual card type itself, as well as the options available to it. Like, for instance, I saw people there like saying like Erd and the new unit, for instance, that's come out on JP, like, what are they doing? You're just giving Arts more options. Well, it's like, yeah, Arts has always been held in high regard because it had the most options. But I think we can now say that like all the card types have a decent amount of options. They don't necessarily have every option, but they all have a decent amount of options. And I feel like certainly prior to maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, Quick was not that way. Quick did not necessarily have enough options. Oh boy, thank you, software update. You're not updating me, no matter what you try. Switching over to JP here real fast for my AP chat. And Juratavka, thank you for the follow. As well as my nerves, if I didn't say it earlier. Your opinion on team cost. Team cost is an interesting problem. Players want us to have more team cost. Game balance dictates that you should not have more team cost. Why? The reason for this is pretty simple. If you have infinite team cost, you will never use a low star. So team cost is there as a mechanism to make you use lesser rarities, and so that you don't just sit there and constantly like whale your way through everything. But really that's all it is. So do I think they need more team cost? I think we're slowly getting it every time they increase the master level. But honestly, in a weird way, we're at such a point that we're almost to the point of being able to have like full slots of that stuff. So I don't know that it matters. Actually, hold on. That's not the one I want to go to. Where is my 90++? Black market. There we go. Man, how the fuck do I want to do this? I've definitely been doing it in a very jank way. Howard 1.0 is releasing today. Will you be playing? I very much don't have the time. Personally, I'd like more AP bar. I actually agree with that. I would love to have like even like 160 and stuff. If you want the gray copies, then you want to level up your career things to max to unlock the notes. I'd been noticing that going up. So yeah, so let me actually take a look at Gray here real fast. I truly don't know where I'm at in terms of like copies for her and stuff. I haven't leveled her at all. This is Lancer Gray. This is our welfare. You have a choice between either Lancer Gray, who's single target, or Saber Gray, who is AoE. And I suspect, while you can only pick one, I do suspect that somewhere down the line with like Evocation Festival or something, you're able to get the other one. Yeah, okay, so what? Do I just have to do like a certain number of runs on every node is why? Yes, so I have to max all of these? Also, did they pull the Stonks meme? It's 6, 9, and 12 maxed. I don't... What does that mean? No! Are you saying, like, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, this is 5, this is 6? The totals of careers. Huh? And forgive me, because I've just been, like, bullshitting my way through this event on JP. So I'm not actually sure what the mechanic is here. Total amount maxed? So for 12, I basically need everything here save like 2 of them. Max 12 for the CQ in the last gray copy? But don't I have the CQ? CQ doesn't need them. Okay. I was like, I'm getting more confused now. Ultra Gym. Is there a way to tell what something corresponds to career-wise? Because obviously that'd be nice, but I don't want to have to repeat nodes that I already have maxed. You kind of have to match the icons. So that's Ultra Gem? And that's Lancer Theatrum? Glad I can zoom in, because holy shit, if I had to do this by eyesight, there ain't no fucking way. Yeah, I see that the shoe salon I'm not, but since I know I don't need everything maxed, the ones that I have the least maxed, I should not try. So I'm gonna guess that's my 90 plus plus. No. Black market? I guess that's money? So we'll do one more run of this. That's something I can do easy. If you want to clear the ladder, you should max them all. I don't fucking know, dude. Guys, what does Ptolemy do? I went from 0 to 3 copies in 10 minutes. He is a archer. And he does archery things. And those things can be single targety things or AoE things. He can also go from young to old and from old to young. He's an archer with a lance. Yes, as every archer should be. Because as you know, a lance is a archer's weapon. Certainly not the weapon of a lancer. A lance is just a bi arrow? I see. Normally I'm not going to pre-card, but I'm going to do that just a little bit. Lancers only use bows. Well, chat, do you guys remember that one scene in Unlimited Blade Works where that guy that was standing on the roof said something about being the bone of his sword? And then he put a lance in his bow? Uh-huh. I know you guys remember that. Not even a sword in the bow, SMH. Right. I mean, you could tell it was a lance based off of how pointy it was. Like, for instance, chat, have you guys ever done a bow build in Dark Souls or Elden Ring? And then you start using your strength. Not your dex, your strength. Because you're clearly a Chad great bow user. There's no way that you're somebody that would puss out and use like a little short bow. It was Caldbolg, Fergus's sword. Oh no. See, you're misgendering Fergus's weapon. You're calling it a sword, but we all know that Fergus used a drill, and a drill must be a lance. Big giant stick I bonk with? Yeah. I'm just glad that we came to this understanding, chat. I would hate for you guys to misunderstand. Money and the power, minute after minute, hour after hour. A drill must pierce the heavens, correct. I like how chat's just dumbfounded by my insane logic. And they realize that they can't argue with it. He's right. No one wants me to be. But this is what peak performance looks like. A drill must pierce the heavens. Exactly. See, chat, and the reason that I say this is because if you look, we're going to use Sakamoto Ryoma Lancer. And does he use a lance? No. He uses a big black snake. That's what he uses. Okay, that is truly his weapon of choice as a true lancer. And behold, right? Like, as a lancer, he is wielding a sword. This is the other thing as well. And I've needed you guys to understand this. I am gonna probably do her and P first here, just because his refund's not the best. He uses shiny Rayquaza? That's right. So is Mashu in John a saber because she has a sword? John's not, because John never uses her sword. See, look, he's powering up his big snake. So that thing that you guys might think is a lance, it's just the key. It's just the ignition key. It's not actually a lance. He's just stabbing a toothpick in her forehead. Mash would have to draw the sword first, and John just dies when she uses it? Exactly. Well, she used it in Apocrypha, so I think there's a good stance to be made that John is a saber in Apocrypha. But at least as far as FGO goes, she doesn't really use it. And that's why her alter form is a saber. Checks out because Gil is a thing? Right. Gil launches lances at his target. Look. Tell me that I'm wrong, okay? He opens up his gate of Bootylon, and then out comes long, pointy objects. So he is clearly, as an archer, using lances. And then you might say, well, he has chains, but you know who else uses those chains? Enkidu, a lancer. Checkmate, chat. Doesn't Gil have an actual bow though? I don't know, but he certainly doesn't wield a sword. Like, have you guys ever seen Aya? Like, Aya is clearly a drill. Like, and as we've already established, drills are lance. Wait, which one was this? Hold on. The Arms Depot is not this one? Or this one? Or this one? What the fuck is this one? The pistol is the one with the cowboy hat? What fucking cowboy hat? This thing that's a pirate hat? Oh, the cowboy hat is in the... Okay, so you're talking about this being the cowboy hat. That's fair. What is this? It's gotta be this one, somehow. Somehow it's the pirate hat. A god skin? I don't know. Clearly I didn't get the NFT for this. The helmet? I swear to God, if the Arms Depot is a fucking helmet, I'm gonna be upset. I will have to guide this because this is weird. Yeah, it is. God fucking damn it. And I get it. It's because it's an armory. And they didn't want to use another gun. So you know what they should have done? They should have used a gun for this and then used a cowboy hat for this. Oh, but then that'd be weird because it might be confusing with the pirate hat. I bet that one's the pirate hat. Okay, and then this is the casino. That's gotta be the casino. Like, why didn't you use the same symbols? Holy shit, guys. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna run into this one real fast. And as you know, chat, here we have an example of an archer that's also using a lance. And I'll prove it to you. Whales are long and pointy, I guess. You're right on that money. See? Behold! A lance, chat! Look at that lance! It looks like a saber to me. Aren't arrows just smaller lances? So that logic that all lancers are archers? No. Not all lancers are archers. Beam so clearly a saber? Yeah, but it's a beam being fired out of a gate, which, as we've already established via Gil, means that, like, if it's coming out of a gate, it's probably a lance. It's pointy, it's coming out. I'm pretty sure that qualifies as an archer. So Ishtar is a lancer. No, Ishtar also fires lances. Therefore, she's an archer. Cat Hippolyta uses a bow but is a rider. Yeah, that makes sense. The gate is obviously magic, though, so caster? No, because we don't see the caster attack balls at all, Jay. Which, as we all know, is what makes Ozzy a caster. Ryder clearly transcends weaponry. Just look at Mabe. Yeah. Yeah, that's why, if you guys have ever noticed, the way you pronounce Ryder is like this. I love conversations that make no sense unless you're deep in the fandom. Yeah. It's the type of insanity that you could only have if you truly have lost your mind. Okay, I need to find... What is this one? Okay. Chat? Cat, what? Cat, what is this one? Because I truly have no guess. There is no defining feature. Oh, is that stock? Is that like... Is that what this is? Is that like a stock ticker going up and down the red and green? Oh my god. Okay, I had to zoom in to be able to tell. It looked like a garland. That's what I thought too. Do I have an arts looping Avenger? Yes. That's an arts looping Avenger, right, chat? So glad I'm back to watching on this channel again. These conversations should not make chat as happy as they do. So I have 100% there. I have 50% of the back line, 60% with that. So surely I can get 40%, right, chat? Surely. Not like I'm trying to loop against berserkers or anything. Wait, so garland is an actual thing? Yeah, garland is like a wreath. Well, no, garland is like a ribbon, right? Sorry, my brain's getting all twisted. All of this conversation of archers. Clearly you'll get 100%. Actually, I did a lot better than I thought I would. I actually don't even know what MP level she is. Is she MP2 on JP? No, just MP1. I've yet to see anybody do a good cosplay of this character. Which is funny because she's basically Yororichi in that sense. Kind of hard to do. Oh, come on. You're just not committed enough. You can't set yourself on fire to have a good cosplay. Did I Grail Ruler Mellow in P4 for Arts Loopers? You can. She's definitely a great one. Does a lot of damage. Just keep in mind that for most units, it's going to be neutral. But I don't see a problem with it. Garland is used for Christmas decorations. Right. And that's what I was like. That's why I think I said it was a wreath, was my brain was associating that. But I was like, wait, no, isn't it a ribbon? I love wacky looping methods. Makes me giggle when I use Space Airish with Buster Loop because of the cooldowns. Yep. You can only cosplay while on fire for so long, Cad. That's quitter talk, Jay. Adds a new meaning to fire crotch. True. Okay, so I need to figure out whichever one this is. And it looks like I've unlocked that. It's the day map. Which one is it on the day map? Ah. I think I can guess. And before it's not this. Didn't Nito Alter be ruler because of the scales? No, no. No, no, no. Scales are not the tool of a ruler. I don't know why you would think that. That's clearly the gun theater one, Jesus. Please no. And yeah, if anything, chat, this is a Yu-Gi-Oh reference, okay? I need you guys to understand this. This is not a reference to like ancient Egyptian mythology. It's a Yu-Gi-Oh reference. Which, as we all know, Yu-Gi-Oh is a JoJo reference. Therefore, this is a JoJo character. Are you certain she isn't a Saint Seiya reference? No. No, I'm fairly positive that this is a Yu-Gi-Oh reference. And therefore a JoJo reference. Because, like, for instance, chat, I want you guys to look at the similarities here. Okay, chat? So, here, we have Nito Alter. And here, we have her actual origin from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Okay? Do you guys not see the similarities? You didn't see Abdul's similarities with her? Wait, why did I do that? Anyways. One is a chicken and the other's a jacket. Yes, yes, yes. No, no, no. Cad, you need to show different pictures if you want to compare stuff, not the same. Oh, okay, that was my fault. Are you sure she isn't doing the 6-7 thing with her hands? I think that's what 6-7 is. It's she's trying to weigh her options. And I think the first option is to like Jeffrey Dahmer you, and the second option is to tickle your feet. It looks like she went with the Jeffrey Dahmer option. Anyways. There's a guy I knew from playing Magic 10 plus years ago. He's convinced that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is JoJo with card games and monsters. Yeah, I can see that. Of course. But I think, Cad, there's a stand named Anubis in part 3. Oh, I'm aware. Part 3 is an Egypt thing. That's why I pulled up Abdul. At least she doesn't Dahmer your feet, I guess. True. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a card game for lawyers with the amount of text and rules. I'm sorry. I feel like you just completed a copy pasta because it was blank. It's a card game for lawyers with the amount of text and rules. Sorry, I forgot the end. Like, is there actually a card game that is not a card game for lawyers? I will wait. Uno, maybe? No, Uno definitely is. Do you know how many, like, house rules there are for Uno? And then people always try to pull the, well, this is our house rule, and you go like, nah, and then you get in an argument about it. Blackjack is pretty straightforward. I suppose so. Blackjack's definitely straightforward. I feel like Go Fish there can be an argument. Maybe Solitaire as well. All house rules must be clarified before the game starts. I do agree with that stance. Golden wind. I need to get back to watching JoJo at some point. If only my watching partner didn't abandon me. And if he's out there, he knows who he is. Hint, he's German. Sounds like the work of an enemy stand, yeah. Just get Kiki into JoJo Cat easy. I don't think I could. That's one where, like, maybe the first season I could. But it would be a one-off and she would probably never want to watch it again. Which she can definitely say otherwise if she's here. Wait, I just realized I took a single target to this node. What the heck am I doing? Oh god, and I have no idea what the effects of these are. Cool. So, we're gonna die. I need to go watch the new Ghost in the Shell. Yeah, has anyone watched it? Is it good? I have to apologize, chat. I have not watched any anime in a hot second. Like, the only anime that I've been watching is Strange Fake, and because Kiki's mom was here, we didn't get to watch any more of it for a couple of days now. Ba, 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 ba. Okay, so she consumed that one. Oh, is this gonna be some of this bullshit? I have no idea which one of these is which. Get the mom in on Fate too. I don't think that would be a thing, chat. I don't know how I would explain Fate to somebody that doesn't watch anime in general. There's certain animes that I feel like require a little bit of like anime mechanical knowledge, and Fate is one of them. Oh, yeah, why didn't I just kill her? What am I doing? Gas below the throttle, push my engine all the way. Na 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 na. Just tell her it's with historical figures fighting with magicians that are jerks. Yeah, I mean, I'd have to be like, it's like Harry Potter on meth. Did I see the new season of The Legend of Vox Machina? I did. We watched that. It was good. There's clearly going to be a 5th season, which was unexpected. Please tell me the fight ends now. That help, the fight doesn't end. Gotta clear that wave, clearly. What if Harry Potter, but most if not all the wizards are Voldemort? I would actually like to see just another tale in Hogwarts, not starring a chosen one child, and we just get to see Slytherin slithering, Hufflepuffs puffing, and all that shit. Like, I'd like to see something where it's not just, we know how it's gonna end, we can tell it's so freaking obvious. So the clock tower? Yeah, I would, in a similar way, I would love to see the clock tower. Do that. So Wizarding World slice of life? Yeah, but I don't want it to be slice of life. I want it to be like drama and intrigue and mystery. Like basically kind of how seasons like 1 through 4 of Harry Potter were, where there was some like sorry, not seasons, books, but like where there was like actually like you didn't know what was going to happen, and then pretty much by the 5th book you're like, all right, we know we're coming to a fight with Voldemort, like it's only a matter of time, Voldemort's getting stronger. Would have liked to show about the founders. It doesn't necessarily have to be about the founders, but it should be like at least like early on in Hogwarts or something. Okay, so that's another copy that we've gotten. And I could definitely focus on getting the other copies here. Now that I know that that's how that mechanic works, and I won't just sit on the same node over and over again. Okay. Let's see. I've currently got 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I need 2 more. Everything else is at 2 out of 5. That just sucks. And I know the shoe is 1. And I'm gonna guess this is 1 as well. This is the cog. Are you listening to a Tales of OP? I don't know. It's a good song though. Calling them seasons is crazy. Why does it make sense? Because it is. And let's be honest, because we know that that's what like the HBO Harry Potter show's gonna be. You know it, I know it, chat. Sorry, chat, I'm just checking something. Have more interactions with families like the Hermione's. Someone who doesn't have a magical background explaining things to a family. I don't mind them exploring that a little bit, but I feel like the more you explore the Muggle side of things, the more the Harry Potter world falls apart. Because it starts getting like kind of ridiculous. Okay, chat, what do we need to go over? Let's see. What are the buffs that have happened since the last time I streamed FGO with you guys? So for starters, just for anybody who didn't see, we have the Mahoyo movie coming. That is going to be big news. Yeah, I guess so. Let me make a list. I gotta talk to you guys about Gray, the new JP 5-star. I gotta talk to you guys about the Arthur buff. Oh, I'm actually surprised nobody has skipped this. And then the Atalanta buff. And then you guys are saying Paris? I'm being lenient, and of course it's Strom. Oh no, the only reason why I was surprised is because usually I have a pretty good instinct for when a song gets skipped. And then I page over to chat and I see that somebody has skipped. David buff. Yeah, let's take a look. Oh, it's so darkened. Thank God, my eyes. Okay, so you got strengthening quests. You got a new unit. And then you guys are saying Paris. No, David. What was David's new one? Was it this one? Yeah. Yeah, he did not have a steroid before like that. So it charges his own MP 30% for a 5-turn max duration. Sorry, let me minimize that. We can zoom in a little bit here. Increases bush performance for 3 turns. That'll be nice. And because it's on a 5-turn cooldown, we can reduce that to 4 with a 5th append, which he's a 3-star, so that's going to be easy to get. We can definitely get this to a very low cooldown, but ultimately you're probably not going to use it on a 4-turn cooldown just because it's a charge skill. Charge skills in a buster environment get very difficult because you need them on specific turns. So something where you're maybe going to say, hey, we need this to come back on turn 3 so that we can pair with an Oberon, sure, that's fine. Double Queen Skya is going to happen there probably in turn 2. Granted, with a 4-turn cooldown, we can maybe make this work with a single Queen Skya setup, so that's not necessarily a big deal. But either way, it means we're going to be popping this on turn 1. So ultimately, at the end of the day, even the 5 turns doesn't matter. We need it on turns 1 and 3, so probably reducing it to a 4 turn is actually going to be good. We can start him out with a mana loading append as well, potentially, and then boom, there you go. He's starting out from 50%, and that's not even considering the new 70% support or things like the Mystic Code that can give you 10% charge. So yes, this is something where it's like we can 3-turn with David now. It's not necessarily something that we could do before, but it is at least, well, I guess technically we could at least get 2 NPs out of him beforehand, but now with the way that the game has shifted, we can definitely do a little bit more. To me, I mean, this is just a decent thing that's going to help him quality of life-wise. This is not a like huge monumental shift in the structure of archers or anything. It's a steroid. He didn't really have that before. All he had was his charisma, which it's not even an adjusted charisma. It's not one of the ones that scales up to even 20%. So it's just a basic ass charisma. So giving him an actual steroid just helps out. Giving him charge, that's going to help him not only if you want to replicate his NP multiple times, but it's also going to help him just in the standpoint that he's actually going to be able to fit better into different compositions. You're going to be able to utilize him as like a single target nuker that just takes out like a middle wave or something like that. So this is definitely just giving David a little bit more viability. And I actually really like this buff for that. This is something that we don't necessarily see a lot of the low star archers getting attention like this, but this is good for him. It sets him out a little bit from the pack, and he was already somebody that was kind of set out to begin with. So to me, this helps him out a lot, especially in the realm of like new players and who they should consider upgrading and stuff. I think your only issue, as always, with David, especially if you're a new player and you're trying to like latch onto him, is going to be the actual material costs of things. But ultimately, it's not a huge deal. The big one's just going to be the Hearts of the Foreign God. That's a little bit difficult for a new player to get their hands on without utilizing something like Pure Prisms or something like that, which that's definitely something you can do if you feel like you just need a good survival one. And so, because he has gotten enough upgrades over the years, David, I think, is a little bit in a better spot, but is he still the one that I would go with as a low star archer for people that are starting out? Not necessarily. He's solid. I do like his ability to protect the party. That's always been one of his major benefits with his harp skill. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it just really boils down to like what you want out of these things. So to me, I like the buff for David. I think it's helpful. It's not necessarily going to make him cracked or something like that, but it is just a solid upgrade that keeps him usable even into the current, like, I'd say like meta and status of FGO. So I do like that upgrade for him. Paris, let's take a look at his. Cool. Avalon, has it only been you doing upgrades and like updating the wiki now at this point? Like, is the community just legitimately not pulling their weight? For events more or less on JP? Jesus, dude. Well, thank you for doing it. Again, chat, if you guys ever get the opportunity, make sure you thank Avalon. He's the one that's doing a lot of work, apparently, upgrading and updating fandom. Because I don't know what the fuck the rest of the community's doing. They're just kind of not keeping resources up to date, which is what it is. So which one was this for him, chat? I don't think it's that. Was it... Wait, did we get a Paris buff? Was it this? Huh. I thought he already had this. Or am I thinking of William Tell? It's making his niche more accessible. Yeah, why am I getting insane William Tell vibes from this? Like, am I on steroids? Or not steroids, but on crack? Because I feel like I've seen this buff before. Okay, yeah, marking instead of vital spot identified. Okay. I'm not insane. I was sitting there, I was like, no, this is an old buff. This isn't the new one. But it is. This is the new buff. Okay. So this basically is going to take his Eyes of Apollo from one attack, one turn. He did already have the vital spot identified buff, so that's also where like some of this is coming from. But let's see. So reduces one enemy's critical attack chance, removes their buffs. If successfully removes, 500% chance to inflict vital spot identified debuff for 3 turns, which is extra damage on his NP. So they gave him a quick up for 3 turns. That's definitely going to be nice. He definitely needed an actual steroid. A self debuff on attack for 3 turns, that whenever he critical attacks, he can get it. So yeah, this is just going to help the super effective on his NP go off. Because now he has the option of either removing an enemy's buffs to get it, or critting them to get it. It's also going to reduce their critical attack chance. And then now it's also a star bomb, so that's going to further help with his ability to get a crit here. Yeah, this is actually a really nice buff. This is going to just make his damage a little bit more consistent, especially getting that super effective, which is something that I feel like a lot of our low star archers are going to need stuff like that to be able to hang with the nature of things. We just talked about that with David. So Paris getting this buff, this is really going to help him out and make him a little bit more consistent. So you're not going to necessarily have to worry about whether or not the enemy has a buff on at the moment. Instead, you can just pop this skill, try to crit them to get it. So that's nice. The only downside will be you'll probably need to pre-card an NP in order to get this off. Unless you're in like a challenge environment, you're going multiple turns, which I would question why you're taking the 2-star in that sort of circumstances, but there's all sorts of reasons you might need to. So it is what it is. Just that's definitely one of those things where pay attention, understand how this works, and keep in mind that yeah, you're gonna need things to like be able to align for like someone like Paris to be able to pop off. But this definitely does help that quite a bit, and especially due to the 3-turn duration on both of these effects, it's really nice. So it does kind of open up that window for him to succeed. Okay. Next up, we have Atalanta. Again, like I said, I haven't looked at the Atalanta one yet either. I'm just going to start looking for it because... Okay, so this is a skill buff. Not this one, right? You already had this. Yes, Caledonian Hunt EX. Okay. So self-evasion for 1 turn is what it used to be. Increases your own NP generation rate for 3 turns. And now it's going to also be a charge of 30%. Okay. I'm not the biggest fan of pairing NP gain with charge, just because it does some fucky stuff. But at the end of the day, it's not the worst thing in the world. Just keep in mind that she is a quick unit, and a lot of quick units are not going to be working with like cooldown reduction and stuff like that. So this is kind of designed and a little bit restricted to being used on turn 1. Now, thankfully, since it is adding an attack up for 3 turns and also a power modifier for 3 turns, you're going to want to do it turn 1. But otherwise, there may be some considerations as to like, when do I need the NP gain versus when do I need the charge? So that's usually why I'm not the biggest fan of pairing charge with NP gain, because then you have to use it up front in order to get the most use out of it. Here, they've heavily incentivized it. So it was already a skill that you were going to probably use turn 1 if you're trying to loop her anyways. And this is just going to increase her damage capacity as well as give her a niche and a reason to be used. I like that. I feel like this actually does fit her with it being Wild Beast. Wild Beast is also not necessarily the most restrictive niche either. It's a little bit wider than I think people realize. So I'm okay with this one as well. This is also a pretty decent buff for her. I maybe would have hoped that we would have seen something like a 3-turn increase to her crossing Arcadia, but I kind of understand why the devs don't want to do that. So instead, they're just making her a little bit more viable by giving her charge. And who this is actually going to make her a little bit competitive with is going to be Summer Ilya, with her kind of being standoutish from Atalanta for years due to the fact that Atalanta didn't have charge in her kit. Atalanta had a little bit better refund, but no charge. Now that she has charge, this is going to hurt Summer Ilya a little bit in comparison as a competitor, but it's not like you can't use Summer Ilya still. So this is definitely a nice one for her. It's going to make her a little bit more adaptable, especially to those weird nodes where there's, you know, not quite enough in terms of like enemies to hit to get that good refund. This is going to help her out actually with that, because all that charge that you maybe would spend up front, you're not necessarily going to have to allocate to later. So her having the 30% charge up front that you're going to pop turn 1, pair that with something like a mana loading, that's going to be a 50% block right there. That saves a potential 50% charge from like a Scotty or something to be used on one of those weird like stats where you only have like 1 enemy or 2 enemies in the wave. So that I really do like. I think this makes her a little bit more adaptable and a little bit more usable in general. So definitely down for this buff. And of course, you know, not everything's going to be looping either. So you could just use her for like a one-off Wild Beast kill and an AoE wave. So I really think this is a good one for her too. Okay, next up we have Arthur. And Arthur we're going to talk a little bit more about. So, chat, Arthur been having buffs, okay? Have I ever done a unit analysis on Arthur, chat? You guys would have to tell me. I don't know that I've ever done a proper, like, video on him or anything like that, but part of the reason is because Arthur hasn't really been worthy of doing it over these years. Hi, my name's Kadroth. I'm a huge Saberface fan, and in general, that comes from my love of the tale of King Arthur. So Arthur is a unit that naturally I want to be strong. I want to be good. It has always been, much to my dismay, that Arthur has been one of the least usable AoE sabers in that regard. They've definitely kind of screwed him up over the years and not necessarily given him what he needs to. And a little bit, we can draw a parallel to Arthur with, as we mentioned before in the stream, Altera. Altera was a unit that they really just did not want to give charge to for all these years. And so they buffed Altera in every feasible way. And then they finally gave her charge. And what happened? It put Altera to the top of the charge. It made Altera absolutely dominant for a little bit there until they started buffing some of the other units beyond her and releasing new stuff, because they kind of overstepped. They avoided giving her what she needed for years, and then they finally gave it to her, and it made her broken because they had given her so many other things to try to avoid it. We're seeing a little bit of a similar deal with Arthur. So Arthur, as you guys know, has had his third skill buff. This originally was just a 20% NP gauge with super large, and it's definitely a very powerful modifier there at 100% against super large enemies. But the 20% charge was really backbreaking, especially nowadays. You guys know the way that sort of the Buster meta has shifted and how Coin Sky has come into the mix. Now, yes, we do have some 30% chargers with Coin Sky of Dark and Merlin and so on, but admittedly 20% has always been such an odd number that unless you're pairing it with a 30% charge, it's really just not going to work in the Coin Sky setup. So him having that, and then him kind of not just naturally having that charge on the back of his MP like a lot of the Saber faces have, meant that he didn't really have any effective way of kind of wielding this charge. Even with things like mana loading, he was just in a weird spot. Now, they came in eventually and they buffed this and they made it a 30% charge, which was good. I actually really like this. This put him back in a sort of more usable stance. And they also gave him charisma for 3 turns, pairing him up a little bit with Saber, but still keeping him with that super large advantage, which does fit his lore. Also turning that into a 3-turn steroid, which is just kind of absurd a little bit, but definitely nice to see, because again, this is something that we can stack. So against super large enemies in a Coin Sky setup, now with that buff, we're able to do a whole lot with him. And that was not his first strengthening by any stretch of the imagination. They also came in and they buffed his second skill, which used to just be one of those old school intuition skills of 15 stars, and they ended up increasing it up to 30 and giving him additional crit damage. We also saw them kind of doing this a little bit with Mordred, but kind of they've come through the whole kit now, because as we see, his mana burst was 1 turn 50% up, and they gave him Sign of a Red Dragon, where they just give him Buster Performance up for 3 turns of 50%, and then in one of the most odd, inexplicable adjustments, they gave him NP gain rate of 30% for 3 turns. Now, while yes, this does help address his carding issues, putting NP gain on a Buster unit is definitely an odd choice, particularly for a unit that was already struggling performance-wise. So I questioned this at the time that they did it, and I said, why? If all you wanted to do is increase his damage, a actual NP interlude was your best choice. And that had truly been all that Arthur really needed to be competitive, was a change to his charge allotment somehow and an NP interlude. And they could actually solve that just with the interlude, but they avoided it for years. So finally now, after buffing all 3 of his skills, and years later, they have come in and they have changed this podunk rudimentary NP into a monster. What they've done is they've upgraded Excalibur to an EX quotation version that still damages all enemies, now does super effective damage to beast class enemies, and basically charges the party's gauge by 10% after that damage goes out. So that's not just him, that's everybody. That's great for him. A little bit of party utility there. Maybe not the most useful, but certainly a nice aspect. And then from there, it's going to further increase the party's buster performance by 20% for 3 turns. What this means is that as we begin to loop someone like Arthur, he is going to not only keep getting scalably stronger due to that buff, but he is also going to make the rest of the party strong. So he is great now. He is somebody that has a lot more party utility comparatively to somebody who in the past had historically been a very selfish unit, and even for a selfish unit, his performance was not good. So now we're seeing he's not only not selfish anymore, he's buffing the party, he's charging the party, but he's also got a lot better damage. And you can still see he still has the same overcharge effect. They didn't tweak that. They just tweaked the amount of damage that he's going to be doing here, and giving this NP a whole lot more versatility. So how is that going to look? What is that going to mean in terms of, again, like actual performance? So let me call out the numbers here for you guys real quick. Ah, okay. Sorry, I'm looking through everything else you sent to Avalon. Okay. So here's Arthur's self-buff damage only now. This is a lot better. Okay, we added a new niche. He already was strong in the niche that he was in, and these niches can overlap. A lot of your beasts that you encounter are going to be super large. So this makes Arthur just a beast destroyer, and it's going to be great to witness some of the hilarity that people are going to pull off with this. You guys can see, even these raw numbers, even at MP1, this is not shabby. This is not a bad number. Now, just kind of showing you guys some of the charging scenarios here as well. Again, Arthur's going to be somebody that we can start him from a 50% standpoint. This is to really like get him synergistic. Technically, we can get him even lower starting charge than this. It's just not going to be the best. We don't necessarily want to be dabbling with that stuff. But you guys can see, again, we have a double Koyanskaya Oberon option. We have a Koyanskaya Waiver Oberon option. Both of those will work. And you can still start him with a nice solid 50% C and make him deal decent damage. So what does this mean for his true damage, his actual in-composition damage? Because, again, we were just talking about this early in the stream. I feel like a lot of people get caught up on those raw numbers. And those raw numbers do not tell the story. The true in-composition numbers are what's actually going to tell you the performance of a unit. So you guys can see here, again, obviously, whenever we're working with Oberon, we're going to get a huge Wave 3 spike. Whenever we're working with Double Koyanskaya, you get that multiplicative nature. So a lot of our buster units are going to ramp up. So you can see his Wave 1 damage at NP1, not going to be the greatest. But the second you start including even the man niche from Koyanskaya, you start getting a little bit better. And we can see this is going to actually be a Koyanskaya Waiver Oberon composition, kind of offering our best possible damage output. Because remember, Waiver got that buff to his first skill that's really, really beneficial now. So you guys can see the sheer amount of damage scalability that's going to happen. Pretty much by wave 2, you almost double in output. Now, as we start looking to the niches, it's not quite double, and there's definitely a little bit more to be considered there. But by wave 3, we get an astronomical spike, because these are still neutral damage numbers. They are not raw. They include the benefits of buff, but this does not include something like you're attacking Lancers or something that would actually be in his advantage. It'd be a little bit more of true numbers if we start looking at something like the Beast niche, where he may not have true effectiveness and may just be neutral against them. So there you can see, though, even 741 for a true damage, that's a lot. That's a ton of damage. And you can see, again, the combinations of those effects and just the sheer scalability for how much damage you can pump out with Arthur in 3 turns at NP1. When you start looking at NP2, the numbers start getting crazier, start going even higher. It's going to get even more insane. So how does this make Arthur stack up against someone like, say, Artoria? So as we start to look at Artoria, yeah, Artoria can outdamage him, but it's really going to depend. I think the benefit that someone like Artoria is going to have is that she's been around a long time. She is a permanently available unit. So a lot of you guys are already going to have her and have her at higher NP levels. But there's definitely a lot of improvement that Arthur has done. Arthur went from being one of the worst AoE sabers to now he is in the echelons of being one of the best. And this is the thing that I'm trying to get across to you guys. On screen now, you guys can see Lord Logres. You can see Logres still has a little bit of that edge in a proper composition and is going to outscale him a little bit. But depending on the buffs that are floating around, depending on the type of enemy that we're facing, obviously there's a little bit more capability that could be on either side of this equation. You have Logres, who could pop off a little bit more if you've got a threat to humanity at play. Or again, if you've got a beast at play, you've got Arthur that can pop off a little bit more. Now, obviously on JP, we have a unit we still need to talk about, but it's going to be Grey Lily Saber, and you can see she's doing some pretty solid numbers there too. So, pretty insane. Now, again, this is considering NP5 of a guaranteeable unit, so naturally the numbers here are going to be strong, but man, you've got Arthur really holding his own still. And again, the undead niche is not one you're going to encounter very often, unfortunately. So looking back at Arthur's numbers, we definitely see quite a bit of capability there. But we'll save, obviously, another big one here for last, and that's going to be Salter. Salter's comparison, we went from a unit that has just frankly been a little insane over time for her being a 4-star, and finally that buff where they allowed Salter to touch Black Grail, finally we're seeing Salter begin to lag a little bit from those top like tiers. We're beginning to see that the 4-star is finally getting passed by some 5-stars. I know you guys like Salter, I do too, but it's one of those deals where, at least for gameplay balance-wise, having the 4-star on top, in my opinion, not good for them. At least it's not good for selling copies of their hard-to-get 5-stars. I do get that as a story-locked 4-star, she's not the easiest to get your hands on, and getting coins for her can be a little bit of a bitch. But, again, at the end of the day, that's one of those where I do question why the devs sit there and make a 4-star stronger than a 5-star. If that's the case, should have just gotten a 5-star version of Salter. But yeah, this is definitely a pretty strong showing by Arthur. So is Arthur the strongest AoE saber? No. But Arthur, as you guys can see, does manage to stack up against these units, does manage to hold his own now, and is in a much better spot. And all of this is with him starting out with a cranking CE, a 50% CE on, not Black Grail like some of these other units. So if we ever get that capability of starting Arthur out with a Black Grail, his damage numbers are going to get pretty strong. So yes, Arthur's buff, absolutely amazing. finally what they should have done. It took them a long time, and well, I can give them credit where credit's due for doing a great thing for him. This is absolutely too long to buff a unit. It should not have taken us, 11 years practically to get Arthur a buff. So that's a little bit insane to me. Okay. Let's take a look at the grays, since we're in a little bit of a gray zone here. And how did I manage to close that one out? Logris also has a triple buster deck. Yeah, and there's definitely some benefits to that. I'm not somebody that's, I'm going to say, like, deck stuck up. That is to say, if you have pretty close to the deck that I want you to have, I can make it work. I feel like there's so many card manipulation techniques and tactics at this point that it's like, let's say you're a buster unit. If you have 2 buster cards, we can get a triple buster out of you. Why? Because we can pair it with the NP. But if you're a buster unit and you have 1 buster card in your deck, that's kind of a problem, right? So that's where it's like, to me, as long as you have like at least 2 of those cards, we can make it work. If you don't, I don't know how that's supposed to work for us. And that being said, I've definitely seen a lot of criticism towards units that have, like, say, triple arts that are maybe a buster unit. While I'm not the biggest fan of that, I can still make that work. At least triple arts is the thing. Like, you can combine that with another unit's arts card to sit there and try to get it more often, and then boom, there's 20% more charge. So obviously I don't want to find myself in those scenarios too often, but hey, push comes to shove, it's at least a decent thing to have. The Arjuna Emiya deck curse, yeah. Which at least Emiya has the ability to shift his NP type. Arjuna does not. Arjuna, like OG Arjuna, he's not a terrible unit. But he is definitely a unit that is a little bit like, kind of like I was talking about with the Sakura Hime. I'm not sure the devs have a clear vision for what they want that unit to do. Okay, chat, let's talk about Gray Lily. So Gray Lily is our new welfare from the new event on JP. I know this is a little bit late coming out for advising you guys on it, but we're just going to kind of do a little bit of a like analysis here and kind of talk about how I feel about the unit and what I feel like the devs have done with her and whether or not I think it's good. So just kind of briefly looking through here, you can already see that just right out of the rip for a 4-star, she has pretty decent attack. She's almost knocking on the door there at 10k. She's at 9.9, so that's solid. Nothing too much to be worried about there. Her HP is at 11k. No problem really there either, assuming you can protect her well, which most buster comps, like, there's at least some capability. I think the big thing to watch out for is going to be obviously units like Koinskaya that can maybe drain HP from a unit. She does have the Artoria face trait, so she is Saber face. You guys know what that means for me. But basically, the problem that we're going to have here is she is child servant, so no looting her, chat. You know the drill. Essentially, looking at her alignments, she's lawful good. Everything here is pretty much what we expect. There's nothing that's too crazy, I would say. Her deck's double buster, double arts, single quick. We expect this. This is at least usable and functional for a buster unit. It's maybe not that triple buster deck like we had hoped, but it is at least serviceable. And taking a look at the hit counts here, everything is at least average or better, so no concerns there. For active skills, she immediately has quick and buster performance up. This is maybe where we get a little bit of concern. Comparing to Gray herself that has essentially a very dominant quick and buster deck, Lancer and Saber Gray here that are our new welfare only have the 2 art cards. Have the 2 art cards and only a single quick card. So that's not as much of the deck coverage there by the primary steroid as we'd maybe hope. And that's something to be a little bit concerned with. We can see also as well, she has NP damage up here in this form, and also the ability to increase her own attack and critical damage each for 3 turns by 20%. The critical damage going up to 30%. that being on a 5-turn cooldown, whereas the first skill was on a 6-turn cooldown. Her third skill is a 30% charge skill, definitely nice to see, but also 10% charge per turn, so that's definitely another interesting thing, as it can certainly be something where maybe in a little bit more of a challenge environment we can have this add up over time. And we do also see that she gets star gen as well for 10 stars, or well, up to 10 stars per turn. So definitely another nice thing over the 3 turns there, and on a 6-turn cooldown. So again, we can reduce these if we start using the 5th append. Whether or not we want to just remains to be seen. I'm gonna guess obviously your primary steroid, getting that on a 5-turn cooldown, a little bit better, as that way you'll be able to like stack it on turns 1 and 2 instead of turns 1 and 3. So you're kind of front loading your damage a little bit. Taking a look at the passive skills here, nothing too much really to write home about other than the Spiritualist Constitution that's going to act a little bit like an Avenger trait that gives her charge per turn. We can also see that she has an increase on her NP generation rate of her Buster cards by 10%, but that's not the biggest deal. Take a look at her pen skills here. Mana loading is going to be a key one for her as a Buster unit with 30% charge. We also see that her third skill is anti-assassin attack damage aptitude. That's not a big deal. We don't really care too much about that. So to me, probably the second skill, aka mana loading, and the 5th skill, aka skill reloading, are going to be your 2 ones that you want to focus on with her a lot. Her Noble Phantasm in this form as a Saber is going to be AoE Buster. So this is going to be a 4-hit AoE Buster NP that removes defensive buffs from all enemies acting first. This is going to be nice. This is going to actually make her a very difficult unit to stop when you encounter her. It's going to then deal damage to all enemies and then charge her own MP gauge by 10%. So when you consider the 10% charge per turn, this means after the MP, you potentially get 20% charge there. So this is somewhat similar to OG Saber in that regard and does afford you a couple other options. She's also then going to deal extra damage to undead enemies with the super effective modifier of 150%. Again, that's certainly nice if you're encountering an undead enemy, but keep in mind a lot of enemies out there are not going to be considered to be undead. And even when you do, a Saber is effective against Lancers. I can't say there's too many Lancer undead enemies out there, so definitely a little bit of an odder thing. We definitely see a lot of Assassin and Caster enemies that are undead. So having Gray come out here as a Saber or a Lancer in the sort of night triangle is a little bit weirder. Still, it's certainly possible you could encounter it, just it's not going to be a super common thing that you'll run into. So with that, now let's go look at Gray Lancer. Gray Lancer's very much the same, except we have a difference in our stats. She's only got 8.7k attack, so a little bit less, and 12k HP. Part of this is going to be coming from, hey, she's just a different class, so they tweaked the numbers to make it work a little bit better. We can definitely see she has a little bit more NP charge attack, and her deck changes here as well, as she now has the double quick single arts in the deck lineup. So this is where her first skill, being that 3-turn steroid for quick and buster, I feel like it's going to fit a little bit better. This is going to be a little bit more synergistic with her kit. So I do like this effect. And then again, instead of having, like we saw on the Saber, the debuff immunity for 2 times 3 turns, now we have self-invincibility for 2 attacks 3 turns. So now we get a little bit more survivability. I definitely like this, especially since this version as a Lancer is single target. So it's going to be a little bit more oriented towards boss killing and survivability. That's definitely nice. Whereas as an AoE unit, yes, you can still use it in challenge environments, but a lot of people are going to start using that unit towards more of a farming application. So having things like debuff immunity, not necessarily the biggest deal. Her second skill, as we can see, still has the NP damage up and the attack up for 3 turns, but now it's also going to increase her own damage against spiritual body enemies by 20% for 3 turns, which is either undead or servant. So this now is a little bit better. She gets a 20% power mod here versus undead in addition to the effects of her NP, plus a 20% power mod to servant type enemies. So certainly nice. This is a little bit similar to Eris Lancer, who's a welfare, except Eris Lancer is AoE. This is single target for Grey Lily, so you have a little bit more actual synergy here for boss killing. Her third skill is going to charge her own NP gauge by 30%. Still have the 10% charge per turn, but now is here where we get another difference, where she's going to recover her own HP every turn for 3 turns. Comparing that back to our Saber form, you guys can see she got the critical stars every turn. So Saber form gets that for a little bit more carding and offensive output. The Lancer form gets a little bit more in the survivability aspect. So I definitely like this one. Passive skills, still pretty much the same thing, only now instead of having the NP generation rate of Buster cards increased by 10%, we have it for quick cards. And this does work a lot better for her since she has the double quick setup. Plus, as a single target, you're probably going to be doing a little bit more carding and a little bit more need to gain NP via your cards. So this one matters a little bit more, and I do think this helps out quite a bit more. Still looking at her append skills here, I'm still going to recommend the mana loading. She's still Buster. She's still got that 30% charge. And the 5th skill here for the skill reloading still being a thing, and everything else is the same. So not too much we need to worry about with regards to differences between the two units there. Now, as we get to the Noble Phantasm, we're also going to be looking at it being a 5-hit single target Buster NP. It's going to remove defensive buffs from one enemy, activating first. So again, perfect for boss killing in this application as opposed to maybe just farming. Now, again, AoE, you could still use it in challenge content. Maybe you're up against a Servant Gauntlet. Maybe you're up against, like, I don't know, just some sort of like challenge fight where an AoE is still necessary. So it's not like removing defensive buffs on an AoE unit's a bad thing either. Just, I definitely like the synergy here. It's going to then deal damage to them, then inflict buff block status to them for 1 turn. So that can certainly help things out, as if they're trying to like follow up with like an invincibility or maybe even some sort of like invincibility pierce or steroid to help them out, they're not going to get it since it's a 1 turn duration. It's not a times duration, it's a turn duration. So it'll block everything they try to do on that turn unless it is a like break bar specific effect potentially. And then from there, it's going to charge her own NP gauge by 10% again. So again, you get that 20% charge after the fact. And then increasing her own NP damage for 3 turns instead of the, again, undead aspect that the Lancer has. So this is something that's going to stack if you are quote unquote looping her or making her NP back-to-back times. So definitely a nice aspect here due to the 3-turn duration. And certainly with overcharge effects, you can get a little bit more out of this. So for me, personally, I felt like I could use Grey Lily Lancer more. And I felt like the kit was a little bit more synergistic towards boss killing rather than necessarily farming. But I do think both are strong and I do think both are good. So let's talk to you guys a little bit about those damage numbers. So taking a look here at Grey Lily Saber, this is going to be her AoE numbers. And again, this is going to be raw numbers, so not including anything like self-buffs. If we want to loop her, our 3-turn scenario is basically going to be double coin Skya Oberon. The thing you'll denote here, we are requiring an append because we're not requiring any sort of craft essence charge. Grey Lily Saber with her Ascension 5 and, sorry, not Ascension 5, with her Append 5 and her Append 2 is going to be a Black Grail Looper. So that's a really, really nice aspect to her. And that's where a lot of her damage output's going to come from. So taking a look at that damage output, what does that mean? That means we're staring 502 neutral in the face here for wave 3 at NP5. This is again a double coin Skya Oberon Black Grail with both our 2nd and 5th append. So this is a pretty optimized setup. But you can see you can make our newest welfare do a metric ton of damage, and that's something to pay attention to. this is a wake-up call for some of our other AoE sabers that are out there. Gray Lily has put them on notice. And so certainly if you're not somebody that has a very strong saber already, Gray Lily can be a great option for you guys in that. Just for some comparisons here, again, you have the man and the undead niche here and the ability to combine them both. OG Artoria definitely caught a little lacking here by this, as she's somebody that can touch Black Grail, and she does have the ability to get into the man attribute, but Gray Lily gonna be able to surpass her if we're just dealing with NP1. Now, the second we get to NP2 of OG Saber, though, it's gonna pass Gray Lily. So there is that understanding that, again, NP2 of a 5-star gonna be able to surpass our welfares. But again, if you're somebody that doesn't have a high NP level or I'm going to say a saber that you consider to be strong, Gray Lily's a great option for you. Just showing Logress here for comparison's sake real quick on the screen. Feel free to pause if you guys need to read that. Arthur with his new buff doing pretty dang solid. And then certainly Salter as well over time doing really good work. So ultimately, at the end of the day, a lot of comparisons there. We still have units like Saber Lily as well that are welfares that are out here, but Saber Lily certainly could use a glow up at this point compared to Gray Lily, who's doing some awesome work there. Now, if we're looking at Gray Lily Lancer, now we're seeing single target numbers again, but these numbers are pretty darn solid, since again we are guaranteed to get those 5 copies if we do everything that we need in the event. Taking a look at our charge scenarios here, she's also going to be a Black Grail Looper for the exact same reasons. Now you have a Buster single target Lancer that can start from 0 and NP 3 times in a row. Yeah, it's no Shisho who can sit there and just stun the enemy to death, or maybe even Enkidu in that regard. But I think the results are going to speak for themselves when you start looking at just your sheer capability. Keep in mind, Gray Lily does have that invincibility for 2 times 3 turns. That's definitely going to be nice for her survivability. Let's take a look at her damage numbers there. You could just see the absurd spike that happens on wave 3. That 254k neutral here in a double coin sky Oberon Black Grail with a pen 2 and 5. And then wave 2, you're already up at 383. And wave 3, you boom up to 1 million neutral damage. This still isn't even against an effective target at this point. Still the man attribute coming in from the Coin Skies. And again, the undead and servant power mod here. So you don't have the super effective, unfortunately. But it's still something. It's still going to give you. And the ability to combine both. And then her one-shot damage still very respectable there at 723. So certainly a pretty crazy number there. Comparing this to someone like, let's say, Bima here at NP1, you can see this just slaughters him. Bima's not going to hold up too well other than in one-shot damage at NP2. And then Shisho even going to struggle a little bit, but still win maybe in one-shot damage. Harada, another one of our welfares here, still just kind of getting outclassed. And Summer Yu, another welfare from back in the day, still not necessarily holding up too well. Summer Kyo, well, Summer Kyo's come a long way, but still not too solid in comparison. Medusa Lily, same deal. And this is kind of where we're at this point. So yeah, Gray Lily, absolutely a fantastic boss killer with that ability to buff strip, ability to buff block, and ability to heal herself and invuln herself. There's a whole lot going on there, but both of these options as welfares are great for you. So I highly recommend looking at your Chaldea, looking at your account, and judging for yourself which one of these two you think is going to work great for you. But I think both of them can be amazing options for you in your account. And it's just going to come down to what you feel like you need more or will use more. So again, let me know what you guys think, and I will see you guys for the next one. Okay. That is that, chat. It is 10:51. I do not have time to go over our new 5-star on JP. And when I say new, it's new. But. And by the way, chat, his name is Ascalaphus, which I can't not see as Asclepius. After so many times of saying it with Asclepius and calling him Asclepius, Ascalaphus just comes off as Asclepius to me. I like Saber visually more, so that's who I'll go with. Yeah. Can NP5 Arthur touch Black Grail? You would probably have to do a lot of shenanigans. Things like slingshotting with Summer Cleo and stuff like that. I'd have to look into it. I don't think it's a normally feasible thing, but... Have you heard of or checked out the convergence mod for Elden Ring? No, I've not. What, is it like a randomizer or something else? I hate the design of the new 5-star. Honestly, the design of the new 5-star looks best with his, like, 3rd Ascension. That's truly, to me, the best looking one. The first and second, I could argue the second's okay, but I still don't, I don't like a garter belt on a guy, nor like the weird like lederhosen. So it's like, it's okay, it's still a little weird to me. The first one, nah, fuck the first one. I don't like that at all. So if I were gonna use them, I would keep them in the 3rd. But yeah, we'll talk about Ascalaphus tomorrow. That gives me a little bit more time to look over his kit, think about him a little bit more, because I truly have not gotten the time to do that yet. But yes, chat, that is me saying you are getting 3 FGO streams this week. I streamed for you guys Saturday. I am streaming for you guys today. And I'm going to stream FGO again for you guys tomorrow. I feel like I owe it to you guys, so. 3? No way. That's right. I will also probably stream Saturday, but Saturday will likely be my variety day. Also seems to have its own site. Yeah, but TLDR it for me, bro. Exhaustive overhaul of Elden Ring with dozens of new weapons, hundreds of new spells, extensively revamped areas and maps and new enemies. So I guess my only question would be is like, am I going to get banned for using this since Elden Ring has that kind of like always online aspect to it? New Annie CE reveals today again. When will they reveal Lartoria for an anniversary CE? I need to know. But okay, chat, that's going to be it for me tonight. Let me see who else is on. Ooh, Mr. Foxforest. I haven't gotten to raid Fox in a hot second. I'm going to send you guys his way. So again, go spread the love to Mr. Foxforest. And if you guys haven't already, get on the Discord. It's the easiest way to find out when I'm going to go live, when I'm going to be streaming, and still chat with me and chat with the rest of the community as to, you know, buffs and units and all that stuff. So always happy to have you guys there. I'll be back tomorrow. And again, make sure you guys are checking out the new shorts and stuff that we're putting out on YouTube. Who knows, maybe we'll put out some actual videos here soon too. So again, I do appreciate the support, but love you guys, and I will see you guys for the next one.